Close the doors of your mind from all carnal will, all carnal thought, all of your emotions, all of your thoughts, all of your fears, all of your laziness, all of your doubt, all anger and jealousy and envy and strife and complaining and pride and hatred, all things within your thoughts and your mind and your conscience and your liver and your kidneys and your 12 cranial nerves and your 12 melanin centers and your frontal lobe, all the things that your eyes have seen throughout your life, throughout the week, all things that still are stuck inside of your heart and your mind and your roots and your kidneys and your liver that have never been cleansed out, and all the things within your gut and your liver that are hindering you from attaining the very thing within yourself, that out of your belly may flow rivers of living water, that you may yield forth an increase in your life, in your heart and your mind. You may come back to life by the Ruach Qahalath that dwells inside of you. For today is the day of freedom. Today is the day of warning. Today is the day that Yahuwah has given to us as Chag Shabua, he say a feast of weeks, at the end of the 49th day count, counting towards the 50th day, that we may walk in righteousness and that we may walk in newness of life, that we may understand the continual pattern of life, the continual pattern of the tree of life, the continual pattern of Jerusalem above. Except a man be born from above, he cannot see the Malkuth of Shamayim. But we walk in that pattern, and we walk in the light of the city. And we look to see and inherit that eternal life by the wisdom of the tree of life, the feminine tree. The tree that bearing 12 manners of fruit, and that we may bear 12 manners of fruit and produce, even as an Isha produces fruit in the earth that comes out of her womb, that she houses within herself for 9 months. So this day we acknowledge the one who made all of the heart of the earth, all in the heart of the earth, all the rivers and streams of the earth. The one who gave life and understanding to all creatures, whether small or great. The one who gives life and understanding and created every man in his image and likeness. The one who gives life and understanding to our inner man and our inner being and allows us to be like a palm tree, and that we may bend and not break during the storms and the raging and the things that may take place in our lives. Yahuwah Elohim. So this Yom, as we move forward in Yadeh Yahuwah. We move forward in the risen Son, Kum ben Yahushua Mashiach, the one who gave his life for us by his dam and gave strength into the blood, just like Adam, and allowed us to have life within ourselves, that we may walk not after the flesh, but after the Ruach Qahalath continually. So this is the book of Sirach. This is the book of Sirach. This is the book of Sirach, chapter 38. This is the book of Sirach, chapter 38, verse 22. Book of Sirach, chapter 38, verse 22. Now let's go up to 22. It says, "Remember my judgment, for thine also shall be so. Yesterday for me, and today for thee." Right? That's why he said, "I am Yahuwah, yesterday, today, and forever." I'm past, present, and future. He said, "I'm everything that you will ever think about when it comes to time. When it comes to the 364-day cycle, according to the 182 thrones that go toward the longest day, which we're almost there, which is 11:11. 182 thrones for the longest day, 182 thrones for the longest night. And we move according to that cycle, according to 364-day cycle, according to Hanuk's time sequence. When he made equal day and equal night, even as Yahushua was riding on the wings of the wind, and he gave us life within ourselves. Right, so this is going to verse 23. "Remember my judgment," well, 22, it says, 23. "When the dead," it says, "when the dead is at rest, let his remembrance rest, and be comforted for him when his ruach is departed from him." He said, be comforted. Right? He says, when these things happen. Why? Verse 24, "The wisdom of a learned man cometh by opportunity of leisure, and he that hath little business shall become wise." He said, you're going to become wise. Man or woman, you become wise. He said, you have little business. You know, when you have much business, then you ain't going to be wise. But when you have little business, you become wise. Verse 25, "How can he get wisdom that holdeth the plow and that glorieth in the goad?" He mean glory in the goad. "And driveth oxen, and is occupied in the labors, and whose talk is of bullocks." He said, how you going to get that? When all your talk and your inquiring and your interactions are all just with animals and lower domesticated animals and doing these things on a day-to-day basis, and you have no leisure time. He said, how? Verse 26, he giveth his mind to make furrows, and is diligent to give the kind of fodder. He's real skilled at it. But guess what? So every carpenter and workmaster that laboreth night and day, and they that cut and grave seals, and are diligent to make great variety, and give themselves to counterfeit imagery, and watch to finish his work, the smith also, sitting by the anvil, and considering the ironwork, the vapor, and the fire, wasteth his flesh, and he fires with the heat of the furnace. You know how you put it in there, you put the sword in there, you're fighting with the furnace, it's hot, you gotta move away from it. That's all he's doing all day. But you know what this says? The noise of the hammer and the anvil is ever in his ears. That's all he hears every single day. No meditation, no time in the field, not even thinking about you. That's all he hears every day. Now you see why this world is the way it is. To keep you entangled in these things. And then guess what happens? You lose out on the tree of life, because wisdom is the tree of life. Why do you think Yahushua say, seek ye first the Malkuth, and all these things will be added to you? Right, but then we look at he said, daily things that people do, and they set no time aside. But guess what it says? And his eyes look still upon the pattern of the thing that he maketh, and setteth his mind to finish the work, and watches and polish it perfectly. That's all he do. So doth the potter sitting at his work, and the turning of the wheel about his feet, who is always carefully set at his work, and maketh all his work by number. He fashioneth the clay with his arm, and boweth down his strength before his feet. Right? He applieth himself to the lead it over, and is diligent to make clean the furnace. So, and get what it said right here. All these trust in their hands, and every one is wise in his work. Right? They are wise, right? The more time you spend in it, the more wise you will be. Verse 32, without these cannot a city be inhabited, and they shall not dwell where they will, nor go up and down. So without these people in the earth, you wouldn't have these places you can go. You wouldn't have a house to live in. You wouldn't have a car to drive. You wouldn't have buildings to go up, elevators to go up. You wouldn't be able to get on boats to go across ferries. You wouldn't be able to go on planes and do all these things that you do without these type of people. But what does he say? They shall not be sought for in public council, nor sit in the congregation. But for some reason they do. And get what it say? They shall not sit in the judge's seat and understand the sentence of a judgment. He said, you ain't gonna understand it. You know why? Because your mind is clouded with so many other things. It says they cannot declare justice, judgment, and they shall not be found where parables are spoken. Right? Ain't no parables gonna be spoken. But they will maintain the state of the world, and all the desire is in the work of their craft. He said that's what's gonna happen to you, if that's what you choose. Right? This is the Nazarene Acts of the Shaly'shy. Nazarene Acts of the Shaly'shy. Nazarene Acts of the Shaly'shy. We're gonna go to Nazarene Acts of the Shaly'shy. Right, you're going to the Nazarene. This is chapter, where we at? Yeah, so we're at the chapter 2. Chapter 2. It says Book V, Chapter 2, page 135. This is Elohim, the creator of all, at the beginning made man by his own image, and gave him dominion over the earth and the sea and over the air, as the Navi Amat has told us. Nabi of truth has told us. And as the very reason of things instruct us. For man alone is rational, and fitting that reason should rule over the irrational. At first, therefore, while he is still righteous, he was a superior to all disorders and all frailty. He said, when you were righteous, right? But it says, but when he sinned, as we taught you yesterday, and became a servant of sin, he became at the same time liable to frailty. And they say became liable to death, mutmut. Became liable to diseases in your body. You became susceptible to things in emotional thought that one can't get over. You became a part of that reality. And that was your manifestation in your life. And guess what happened? This therefore is written that men may know that as by disobedience they have become made liable to suffer. So by obedience they may be made free from suffering. By obedience. Why? And not only free from suffering, but even a little belief in Elohim be able to cure the suffering of others. He said, just a little bit. He said, do you believe? You're going to be like Messiah and hit the rock. And water came out, but he thought it was by his own hand. That's what everybody believed. That's why people can't put him away today. They think, you put all your hope in Messiah. Right? But it said right here, that may be made free from suffering. And not only free from suffering, but by even a little belief in Elohim would be able to cure the suffering of others. For thus the Navi Amat promised us, saying, Amen, 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 I say to you, that if you have Amunah as the grain of a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, remove hence, and it will be removed. Of this saving you have yourselves also had proofs. For you saw yesterday how at our pretense the demons removed and were put to flight with those suffering that they had brought upon men. Right? All that comes from these things happening to people. And by doing so, what does it do? It brings things into your life and into your body that should not be there. Right? That it should not be there. Right? So this is the book of Job, chapter 1 and verse 1. Job, chapter 1 and verse 1. Job, chapter 1, verse 1. It says, there was a man in the land of Uz whose name was Ehud, and the man was blameless and upright, one who feared Elohim and turned away from Arah. There were born to him 7 sons, 3 daughters, and possessed 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, and 500 female donkeys, and very many servants, so that this man was greatest of all the people of the east. His son used to go and hold fast in the house of each one on his day, and they would send and invite their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. And when the day of the feast had run its course, Ehud would send and consecrate them, and he would rise early in the morning and offer burnt offerings according to the number of them all. But Ehud said, it may be that my children have sinned and cursed Elohim in their hearts. This did Ehud continually, right? Verse 6. Now there was a day when the sons of Elohim came to present themselves before the Yahuwah, and Satan came also among them, right? That's what happens. When you go present yourself before Yahuwah, that means Satan coming too. He said all the strange sounds, all the things that's going on in your mind, all the urges that may come about, all the things that may go on in your heart and your mind, that's him. Trying to get to your heart and your mind, trying to get to your thoughts, trying to get to your body, right? That's what he's doing. He's only using the parts of the things in your body that has infidelity in it. And he's going to use that to get in. But that's what he does. And he said, and Yahuwah said to Satan, from whence have you come? Satan answered Yahuwah and said, from going to and fro in the Eretz and walking up and down in it. And Yahuwah said to Satan, Satan all, have you considered my servant Ehud, that there is none like him on earth, a blameless and upright man who fears Yahuwah and turns away from Ra? Then Satan answered Yahuwah and said, does Ehud fear Elohim for no reason? Have you not put a hedge around him and his house and all that he has on every side? You have baraked the works of his hands, and his possessions have increased in the land. But stretch out your hand and touch all that he has, and he will curse you to your amunah. Curse you to your face, your panim. That's what he wants. You know how you say curse you to your panim? Like he ain't gonna go appear before his face. Now 3 times a year you're supposed to appear. He said you ain't gonna keep the cog, you ain't gonna keep the muad. Right? Everything get taken away. You're not gonna appear before his face. You're not gonna hear his debar. Right? You ain't gonna let the ruach lead. No, you're not gonna do that. Right? This Bereshit chapter 1, verse 1. Actually, Bereshit chapter 3 and verse 1. Bereshit 3 and 1. Bereshit chapter 3, verse 1. Bereshit chapter 3, verse 1. It says, "Now the serpent was more crafty than any other beast in the Chdsh of the field that Yahuwah Elohim had made. He said to the woman, Did Elohim actually say, You shall not eat of the tree of the garden? And the woman said to the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden. But Elohim said, You shall not eat of it, of the tree. You shall not eat of the fruit of the tree that is in the midst of the garden, neither shall you touch it, lest you die." Lest you die. That's the whole point. Or you mean, lest you incur frailty in your body, and then you'll be susceptible to all diseases and sicknesses in your body, and then you'll hang up be able to remove the sicknesses from your body, and you'll have what? He won't barak your bread and your water. He'll curse your bread and your water, and thorns and thistles is going to yield you. He said, yeah, that's what disobedience does. Then you're going to incur and bear children that don't have, they're going to have all your diseases in it. And then you're going to bear children, and you're going to be joining marriages with diseases in your body. And you have no love in your heart for Yahuwah himself. All that's encompassed in this. But it said right here, but then the Chdsh said to the woman, You shall not surely die. Why? Because he wants you to be corrupted, and he wants you to bear children that are unrighteous for him. That's what Satan wanted. That's what he always wanted. That's why he make people rebel. That's why he make women rebel. That's why he make men rebel. That's why he make children rebel. That's why he get in your heart and your mind. That's why when you appear before him, that's why he get in your heart and your mind. He want to see, can I sway you to sell your brother out for money, to sell your sister out for money, to sell your husband out for money, to sell your children out for money, for some gain. Because that's what people have done. That's what they did to Yahusha. That's what Cain. That's how Cain killed his brother Abel. He sold him out for a beautiful woman that he wanted. And he made sure he destroyed his brother so he would get that woman that he wanted. He always sway you. You know, when you go, yeah, you see that one over there, and then the other person be like, it's the same thing. But this is just 1 second, right? But the serpent, the Chdsh said to the woman, You shall not surely die, for your Elohim knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be open, and you will be like Elohim, knowing good and evil. So who's supposed to know this? Who's supposed to be the person to take from the tree of knowledge of good and evil? Who? The woman? And it says right here, so when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was delight to the eyes, and that the tree was to be able to make one wise, she took of its fruit and ate. Also gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate. Then the eyes of both of them were open, and they were naked. They were what? They were naked. And they knew that they were naked. And guess what? And they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves loincloths. So now, guess what happens now? Now Satan got power. He like, yeah, see what I got? Now I got power over your life. So being that you know these things, now I got power over your life. Now you got fear in your heart. Now you're fearful. Now you're unbelieving. I got that in your heart now. Once you disobey, you get fear and unbelief in your heart. And they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves loincloths. They clothed themselves. They tried. And they heard the sound of Yahuwah walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and the man and his wife, Yahuwah already know they sinned, hid themselves from the presence of Yahuwah, Elohim, among the trees of the garden. That's what happens. He'll curse you to your face. But Yahuwah Elohim called to Adam and said to him, Where are you? He's looking for you. He's not looking for the woman. He's looking for the Ish, Adam. And he said, I heard the sound of you in the gun and was afraid because I was naked and I hid myself. And he said, who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree that I commanded you not to eat? Right? That's all he said. And they did. But going to the last three verses. Going to the last three verses, right? Going to verse 20. And it says 3 and 20. The man called his wife's name Kawul, for she was the mother of all living. Because her name mean life. It means life giving. She was the mother of all living. And Yahuwah made Adam, and Yahuwah Elohim made for Adam and his wife garments of skin and clothed them. And then Yahuwah said, behold, the man has become like one of us, knowing good and evil. Who? The man has become like one of us. So you think it was appointed for Adam to become like them eventually? You think Adam was supposed to continue to stay in the state that he was? You think he wasn't supposed to grow up into salvation? You think he wasn't supposed to be able to discern between good and evil? You think he wasn't supposed to know that eventually? Because he's just been born. And guess what happens right here? And it says, and now lest he reach out his hand and take from the tree of life and live forever, because that's wisdom. Hakma. It's a feminine tree. That's what his wife name, it means life giver. So you see, the woman is supposed to be, after all that, her name was given to her being life giver. A person that's supposed to bring life. The man, he knew good and evil. He knew both. The woman is supposed to be bringing forth life. And then he says right here, therefore Yahuwah Elohim sent him out of the garden of Eden to work the ground from which he was taken. Sent who? Because the man was already working before the woman was even created. And then he said, I need a helper. And the Czar, he was already doing it. He was already doing it. And guess what? And when he sent him out in the garden, it was the same thing. She's supposed to help with the garden. No difference. It's just the fact that everything got erratic. Because something erratic entered in, and now things happened that wasn't supposed to happen that early. It was too early for that to happen. Way too early. But it says right here, therefore Yahuwah Elohim sent him out of the garden of Eden to work the ground from which he was taken. And he garashed Adam out the man at the east of the garden of Eden. And he placed cherubims with a flaming sword that turned every way to keep the guard the way the tree of life. Why? This is Hebrews chapter 4. Hebrews chapter 4 and verse 1. Hebrews chapter 4 and verse 1. Actually, yeah. Hebrews chapter 4 and verse 1. It says, therefore, while the promise of entering into his rest still stands, let us fear lest any should seem to have failed to reach it. For the good news came to us just as to them. But the message did not benefit them because they were not united by Amunah with those who listened. That's what happened in the garden. You notice that. Because after all that happened, they weren't united. Because if they were united, they would just obey the Torah and would not disobedient, and then the woman wouldn't have went to the serpent and took from the tree, and then it would have never happened. They weren't united. The woman wouldn't have been an inheritor of the knowledge of good and evil before a man got it, and then guess what happened? And then it became this competition, and now she then gave it to the man, and now guess what happened? Sin came into the world. It came into the world. And guess what? For we who have believed enter that rest, as he said, I swore in my wrath that they should not enter my rest. He's like, although his works were finished from the foundation of the world, for he has somewhere spoken of the seventh day in this way. Elohim rested the Shabbat day from all his work. Again, in this passage, they shall not enter my rest. And people act like the Shabbat over with. You know, we ain't got to do that. Forget about the seventh letter of the alphabet. Sword not wrestle our word perfection. Yeah, forget about that. Or you're gonna be the people shining up the polish on your natural stuff and making that perfect. He said you will find only wisdom and leisure. But it says right here, since there it remained for them to enter, and those who formerly received the good news failed to enter because of what? Because of disobedience. Because disobedience brings all these frailties in your body, all these things that happen. Obedience allows the suffering to leave. He said, I want the suffering to leave. I want these things to stop. Then stop being disobedient. It's really that simple. He said, you got to force your body, your heart and your mind, your flesh, your emotions and your thoughts, your hands and your feet, your mind. He said, your attitude and your thoughts and your ears. And he said, you got to force it into subjection. He says, again, he appoints a certain day today, saying through Dawid, so long afterwards, in the words already quoted. Today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your heart. He said, don't even harden your heart. Right, you're going to Hebrews chapter 5 and verse 11. Hebrews chapter 5, verse 11. Verse 12. Hebrews chapter 5, verse 12. For though by this time you ought to be teachers. He said, you should already be knowing how to teach already. What's wrong with y'all? But guess what? You need someone to teach you again. You need to be taught again. The basic principles of the oracles of Elohim, you need milk and not solid food. For everyone who lives on milk is unskilled in the word of righteousness, since he is a child. What do you think Adam was? He was a child. He was a little baby. He was just born. He was just created from that. Yahuwah was sitting here telling him how to make animals. Hey, this is what you name. Whatever Adam called him, that's what he gave it to him. He got him a shot. He just got into the world. He was a child. But guess what happened to him? This is what happened to him. Because he was the person supposed to know knowledge of good and evil. The woman's supposed to be the life giver. Supposed to bring forth life. Bearing fruit. But guess what happened? She ended up getting it first. The Selah ended up getting it first, and he was supposed to get it first. Because he was the person who was supposed to be taking care of the Selah. The only way to do that, you got to be able to discern between good and evil. By the time he got it, it was already over. Satan already took over. But it said right here, you need milk and not solid food. For everyone who lives on milk is unskillful in the word of righteousness, since he is a child. That was Adam. He was unskilled. But solid food is for the mature. The man has become like one of us. He done ate it. For those who have their powers of discern trained. He wasn't trained. He didn't get to that level yet. So he wasn't even trained. He's like, man, you done ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. We didn't even teach you what it is and how it operates, or even how to control it yet. We didn't even teach you how to self-control it and how to rule it. But solid food is for the mature, for those who have their powers of discernment trained by constant practice to distinguish between good and evil. He just came into the world. He ain't only been here that long. He ain't been here a day. How are you going to constant practice that? To get the knowledge of good and evil. He just ate from the day. He's like, man, you done ate the tree of good and evil. Man, now you ain't even practicing. We ain't even teach you how to get you up to that level yet. And guess what happened? Boom. That's what Satan has. He has so many different trees of knowledge of good and evil out here. You can't even stop people. It's just like one click of a button, boop. One look over here, boop. One look over there, boop. Somebody speak, boop. It's it. Knowledge of good and evil. It's over now. It's over. And then guess what? Once the seed is sown, then you gotta try to circumnavigate all that and try to get it all right before it take over their body. And next you know, self-control is gone, and then now it's like a erratic person running around. You don't know what they're doing. Where you going? I'm just going over here. And then next thing you know, boom, they doing something else. Right? This is the apocalypse of Abraham. Apocalypse of Abraham. Right, this is the apocalypse of Abraham. Apocalypse of Abraham. Yeah, the apocalypse of Abraham, chapter 23. Chapter 23 and verse 1. It says, and this is Pseudepigrapha, volume 1. Apocalypse of Abraham, Pseudepigrapha, volume 1, verse 23. It says, look again at the picture. Who is the one who seduced Ka'ul? And what is the fruit of the tree? And you will know what will be and how much will be for your seed in the last days. Isn't that what we're in right now? And it says right here, and what you cannot understand. And I will make known to you because you have been pleasing before my face. And I will tell you what I have kept in my heart. And I looked at the picture, and in my eyes ran to the side of the Garden of Eden. And I saw there a man very high, very great in height, and terrible in breath, incomparable in aspect, entwined with a woman who was also equal to the man in aspect of size. That's what we see Book of Hanuk say. The Shemesh and the Kukabim, the Shemesh and the Yark are the same size, but the sun shines 7 times brighter than the moon. And they were standing under the tree of Aydah, and the fruit of the trees was like the appearance of a bunch of grapevines. He said it was like a bunch of grapevines. And you know what happens? And behind the tree was standing something like a dragon in form, but having hands and feet like a man. He said, just like a dragon. He said the Lahuyathan, just like the dragon. Right? Satan all. Right? And guess what happens? It says, and behind them standing something like a dragon, but having hands, feet like a man. On his back 6 wings, and on his right 6 wings. And he was holding the grapes of the tree and feeding them to the 2 I saw entwined with each other. And I said, who are these 2 entwined with each other? Or who is this between them? And what is the fruit which they are eating? Mighty One Eternal. And he said, this is the world of men. This is Adam, and this is their thought on earth. This is cool. He said, that's their thought. Because you know, 3 times you're supposed to appear, but guess what? Satan all come right there in the middle of it. He right there. Right? And guess what it said right here? And he who is between them is the impiety of their behavior unto perdition. He said that's what the behavior is in the middle. He said, who orchestrating all of it? Who bringing a whole household to fighting, as the Testament of Solomon said. He said, who brings a whole household with a false tongue, with the knowledge of good and evil that you were supposed to eat from? Who did that? Satan. And you know what happens after that? And he who is between them is the impiety of their behavior unto perdition. Azazel himself. You know, one of his beings that work under him. Azazel. And guess what? And I said, Eternal Mighty One, why then did you adjudge him such dominion, and through his works he could ruin humankind on earth? He said, how you give him all this power? But guess what he said? And he said to me, hear, Abraham, those who desire evil, and all whom I have hated, as they commit them, over them did I give him dominion. Those who are disobedient, he'll give him rule over your life. That's when you have all these afflictions, things that happen in your life: poverty, hatred, envy, despising, disrespect, all types of fighting, quarreling. all types of anger and bitterness and resentment and adultery and fornication, all types of different types, and such things like these, that your petitions may not be heard on Yahuwah on high. Stiffness of neck. That's all he does all of that. He uses that. And you know what he does that for? It says right here, and I have hated as they commit them. Over, it says, hear, Abraham, those who desire evil, and all whom I have hated as they commit them, over them did I give him dominion, and he was to be beloved of them. He's like, man, he love you. He's like, man, Satan love you. He said, he beloved of them. And I answered and said, Eternal Mighty One, why did it please you to bring it about that evil should be desired in the heart of man? Because he said, because you are angry at what was chosen by you? It says, him who does useless things in your light. And he said to me thus, verse 24, chapter 24, close to the nations, for your sake and for the sake of those set apart after you, the people of your tribe, as you see in this picture, what is burden of them, and I will explain to you what will be in everything that will be in the last days. Look at how everything in the picture, and I looked and saw there the creatures that had come into being before me. And I saw, as it were, Adam and Kuor, who was with them. He was with them. And with them the crafty adversary came, who had been led by the adversary to break the what? To break the Torah, the law. And I saw the murdered Abel, Habal, and the perdition brought on him given through the lawless ones. And I saw their fornication, and those who desired it, and it defiled in their zeal, and the fire of their corruption in the lower depths of the earth. And I saw there the theft of those who hasten after it. So you look at all that, the works of the flesh. But these are the works of the flesh in the Galatians. You say, why does he say all of this? Because these are all the works of Cain when he went to Nude. And the people of Nude that were already here before he even left the place where Adam and Kuah and Habal was. And guess what he did? He said, perdition brought on him and given through the lawless one. And I saw their fornication, and through who desired it. And it defileth in their zeal, in the fire of their corruption, in the lower depths of the earth. And I saw their theft, and those who hasten after it, and the system of their retribution, the judgment of the great court. I saw their naked men. He said, I saw their naked men, forehead to forehead. He saw their naked men, forehead to forehead. That's the works of Cain. That's what they did. What do you think that did? That's men with men. And guess what else? And their shame and the harm they wrought against their friends and their retribution. And I saw the desire. And in their hand was the head of every kind of lawlessness. And her torment and her dispersal destined for destruction, right? And all this took place. But how does it all come about? And I saw their likeness of the idol of jealousy, like a carpenter's figure, such as my father used to make. In the body of a glittering copper, and before it a man, and he was worshiping it. He said before him a man, he had on glitter. He said, man, it was like a glitter idol. And man, they were worshiping that idol. Man, they were calling on that God. They were worshiping that idol, not even knowing. He said, that's the same thing my father made. He said, that's the start of it. That's the creation of it. And he said, so why would you say all of that? Because everything works together for a reason, right? Everything works together for a reason, right? Right. So this is the book of Bereshith. So let me get out of there. So this is the book of Bereshith. Let's get into this whole thing. Yeah, this thing coming out. So this is the book of Bereshith. Chapter 5. Bereshith chapter 5, verse 18. Bereshith chapter 5, verse 18. It says, and when Jared lived 162 years, he fathered Enoch. Jared lived after he fathered Enoch 800 years. And he had sons and daughters. Thus, all the days of Jared was 962 years, and he died. When Enoch lived 65 years, he fathered Methuselah, and Enoch walked with Elohim, and afterward fathered Methuselah 300 years, and had sons and daughters. Thus, the days of Enoch was 365 years. Enoch walked with Elohim, and he was not, for Elohim took him. He said Elohim took him, right? So this is the second Enoch. Second Enoch, pseudepigrapha. Second Enoch, pseudepigrapha. Second Enoch, pseudepigrapha, chapter 1. Second Enoch, pseudepigrapha, chapter 1. Second Enoch, ain't nothing written up. This is Second Enoch, pseudepigrapha, volume 1, chapter 1. Right? Chapter 1. Right. And it says right here, there was a man and a great artisan whom Yahuwah took away. And he loved him so that he might see the highest realms, like he might see the highest Shamayim, and the most wise and great, inconceivable, and unchanging kingdom of the Elohim Almighty, and the most marvelous and glorious and shining manite stations of Yahuwah's servant, and Yahuwah's immovable what? Throne, his cassette, his sapphire throne. His sapphire throne, his immovable throne, armies and indescribable composition, armies, and it says, it says, and Yahuwah's immovable throne, and the ranks of the organization of the bodiless armies, and the indescribable composition of the multitude of elements, and the variegated appearance of the indescribable singing of the army of the cherubim, and the light without measure, to be an eyewitness. He said, I want you to see it. It says, and at that time, he said, when 165 years were completed for me, I fathered my son Methuselah. After that, I lived 200 years, and I completed the years of my life, 365 years. In the first month, on the assigned day of the first month, I was in my house alone. He said, I was in my house alone, and I lay in my bed sleeping. And while I slept, a great distress entered my heart, and I was weeping with my eyes in a dream. And I could not figure out what this distress might be, nor what might be happening to me. Then two huge men appeared to me, like that which I had never seen on earth. He said, two men appeared to me, huge men, tall men, huge. So he was sleeping and he saw these two men. He was in a dreamlike state, a tardima. You know, like Adam, tardima. He was in a dreamlike state. And it says, their faces were like the shining sun. Their eyes were like burning lamps, like the menorah, right? 7 years. From their mouth, fire was coming forth. He said, is not my debar like fire? He said, their clothing was of various singing. The wings were fastened, more glistening than gold. And their hands were whiter than snow. He said they were clean hands. They had clean hands. It says, and they stood at the head of my bed, and called me by my name. And then I awoke from sleep. So he was in a dreamlike state. And then he woke to reality. And again, he said, and I saw those men standing in front of me in actuality. He said, I saw them in reality. Which means they went from a unseen world to a seen world. They came into this reality and manifested in this reality. Can you imagine? Can you imagine that happening? And get what it said. Then I bowed to them, and I was terrified at the appearance of my face was changed because of fear. Then those men said to me, be brave, Enoch, in truth. Do not fear. The eternal Elohim has sent us to you, and behold, you will ascend with us to Shamayim today. Tell your sons and all the members of your household everything that they may do in your house while they are without you when they are without you on earth. On where? On earth. So where he at? He talking about they're without you on earth, which means he leaving earth. He leaving Aydah. And guess what happened? And let no one search for you until Yahuwah returns you to them. And I hurried and obeyed them. And I went out of my house and I shut the doors. And as I had been ordered, and I called my sons, Methuselah, Regem, and Gaid, and declared to them all the marvels that those men had told me. And it said right here, he says, Hanuk instructed his sons. He said, listen, my children, I do not know where I am going, nor what will comfort me. Now, my children, I say, do not turn away from Elohim, walk before his face, and keep his what? And keep his commandments. For this is our righteousness if we keep his commandments. What else are you going to tell them? He says, do not abhor prayers of your salvation, so that Yahuwah will not curtail the work of your hands. And do not be ungenerous with Yahuwah's gifts, and Yahuwah will not be ungenerous with his donations and love gifts in your storehouses. And Barak Yahuwah with your firstborn of your herds, and the firstborn of your children, and blessing Barak will be with you and you forever. And do not turn away from Yahuwah, and do not worship vain gods, idols, gods who did not create the Shamayim and the earth, or any other created thing, for they will perish. So will those who worship them. It'll be a disobedient, and you bring all frailty into your body if you worship them. You know what happens? And may Elohim make your hearts true in reverence for him. And now, my children, no one must search for me until Yahuwah returns me to you. And guess what happened? And it came about, when I had spoken to my sons, that those men called me and took me up onto their wings and carried me up to the first Shamayim and placed me on the clouds. He done left the earth in physical reality and placed him in the clouds. And behold, they were moving, and there I perceived the air higher up, and higher still I saw the ether, right, the Shamayim. And they placed me on the first Shamayim and showed me a vast ocean, much bigger than the earthly ocean. Much bigger than the earthly. And he done went past what you call your earthly yam. He saw him a whole nother water. And guess what happened? And led before my face the elders and the rulers of the stellar orders. The what? The stellar orders. And they showed me 200 Malachim who govern the stars and the heavenly combinations, the Rekia, the heavenly combinations, and they fly with their wings and do the round of all the planets. He in the Rekia. He done left the earth. People say, oh, no, people can't do that. Hanuk did. And guess what happened? And how the Malachim guard the storehouses of the snow. And there I perceived the treasury of the snow and ice, and the Malachim who guard their terrible storehouses, and the treasury of the clouds from which they come and go in. And he showed me the treasuries of the dew like olive, right? So all this. Right, so he ascended up, right? So we're not going to go through it. But if we're going over to, this is the book of Yashar. Book of Yashar. This is the book of Yashar. The book of Yashar. Book of Yashar. Yeah, book of Yashar, chapter 3. Book of Yashar, chapter 3, and verse 3. Actually, yeah, book of Yashar, chapter 3, and verse 1. It says, and Hanuk lived 65 years, and he begat Methuselah. And Hanuk walked with Elohim after he begot Methuselah, and served Yahuwah, and despised evil ways of men. The soul of Hanuk was wrapped up in the instructions of Yahuwah. He was wrapped in the commandments, in knowledge and in understanding, and he wisely retired from his sons of the sons of men and secreted himself from them many days. And it was in the expiation of many years, whilst he was serving Yahuwah and praying before him in his house, that a malach of Yahuwah called to him from Shamayim, and he said, Here am I. And he said, Rise and go forth from thy house and from this place where thou dost hide thyself, and appear to the sons of men, in order that thou mayest teach them the way in which they should go, and the work which they must accomplish to enter the ways of Elohim, right? He did all that, right? So this is the book of Matthew, or this is the book of 1 Corinthians. This is the book of 1 Corinthians. The book of 1 Corinthians. Actually, here we go. Yeah. Actually, the book of Acts. Go to the book of Acts chapter 1. Book of Acts chapter 1 and verse 1. It says, in the first book, O Theophilus, or Igenaeus, right, that's something called it. It said, I have dealt with all that Yahushua began to do and teach, until the day when he was taken up, after he had given commands through the Qahalath Ruach to the Shaly'shy, whom he had chosen. He presented himself alive to them after his suffering by many infallible proofs, appearing to them during the 40 days and speaking about the kingdom of Elohim. And while staying with them, he ordered them not to depart from Jerusalem. Then what Hanuk ordered his children before he left and went to the Rakia. He said the same thing to his children. He ordered them not to depart from Jerusalem, but wait for the promise of the Father, which he said, you heard from me. For you cannot immersed with water, but you will be immersed with the Qahalath Ruach not many days from now. Guess what happened? Right, going back to 3rd Enoch, going back to the book of Yashar, chapter 3, verse 5. And Enoch arose up according to the word of Yahuwah and went forth from his house, from the place from which the chamber in which he was concealed. And he went to the sons of men and taught them the ways of Yahuwah. When did Yahushua get up from the grave? On the 3rd day. And he told Mary Magdalene, told him, I'll meet them in the house, and I will meet them, and I'll appear to them. And when he appeared to them, and he started teaching them. He said, and then before he got there, he said, he taught some people and said, didn't our heart burn within us while he spoke to us by the way? And then, that's in Luke 24. And then after that, what happened? He was with them 40 days speaking about the kingdom of Yahuwah before he was taken. And guess what it says right here? And he ordered it to be proclaimed in all the places where the sons of men dwelt. Verse 6. It's the book of Yashar, chapter 3, verse 6. Where is the man who wishes to know the ways of Yahuwah and the good works? Let him come to Hanuk. Why do you think Yahuwah said, come unto me all that are heavy laden and burdened? He said, I'll give you rest. Take my yoke upon me and learn from me. For I am meek and lowly, you'll find rest for your soul. And you know what he said right there? And all the sons of men then assembled to him, for all who desired this thing went to Hanuk. And Hanuk reigned over the sons of men according to the word of Yahuwah. And they came and bowed to him, and they heard his word. And the Ruach of Elohim was upon Hanuk, and he taught all his men the wisdom, Hukmah, of Elohim and his ways. And the sons of men served Yahuwah all the days of Hanuk, and they came to hear his wisdom, his Hukmah. They all came. They all came to him to hear his wisdom. And all the kings and the sons of men, both first and last, together with the princes and the judges, came to Hanuk. And they heard of his Hukmah. And they bowed down to him. And they also required of Hanuk to the reign over them, and to which he consented. And they assembled in all 130 kings and princes, and they made Hanuk king over them. And they were all under his power and command. And Hanuk taught them wisdom and knowledge of the ways of Yahuwah. And he made peace amongst them, and peace was throughout the Aydah during the life of Hanuk. During his time. But guess what happened? After all that, right? Skipping over. We're going to, where are we going to? Yeah. Going to verse 15. Going to verse 15. Yeah, going to verse 15. It says, let's go to verse 14. This is 3:14. And it was in the 56th year of the life of Lamech when Adam died. 930 years old was he at his death. And his sons with Hanuk and Methuselah his son buried him with great pomps in the burial kings of the cave, which Elohim told them. All right, skipping down to verse 19. And during the 3 days that he was in the chamber, he prayed to and praised Yahuwah his Elohim. And on that day on which he went, he appeared to the subjects and taught them the ways of Yahuwah. And all they asked him about Yahuwah, he told them. Right, going to verse 20. Yeah. And he did in this manner for many years. And he afterward concealed himself for 6 days and appeared to his people one day, and one day in 7, and after that once in a month, and then once in a year, until all the kings and the princes and the sons of men sought for him. And he desired again to see the face of Hanuk and to hear his debar, but they could not, as all the sons of men were greatly afraid of Hanuk, and they feared to approach him on the account of the Elohim, like all that was seated upon his countenance. Therefore no man could look at him, fearing he might be punished and die. Right? Verse 21, and all the kings and the princes resolved to assemble the sons of men, and to come to Hanuk, thinking that they might all speak to him at the time when he should come forth amongst them. Right, verse 22, and the day came when Hanuk went forth, and they all assembled and came to him, and Hanuk spoke to them the word of Yahuwah, and he taught them wisdom and knowledge, and they bowed down before him, and they said, may the king live, may the king live. Right, that's what they did. Going to verse 23, and in some time after, the king and the princes and the sons were speaking to Hanuk, and Hanuk was teaching them the ways of Yahuwah. Behold, a malach of Yahuwah then came into Hanuk from Shamayim, and wished to bring him up to Shamayim to make him reign over all the sons of Adam, sons of Elohim, as he had reigned over the sons of men upon the earth. And when that time Hanuk heard this, he went and assembled all the inhabitants of the earth and taught them wisdom and knowledge, and gave them divine instruction. Then now the Malachim came again. He came again. Because the first time he took him to the Rakia and he showed him all the stellar orders. But then he came again and said, we're going to put you over all the sons of Elohim in another place. And guess what happened? And he taught them all the wisdom. Verse 25. Go to verse 25. And now, therefore, I will teach you wisdom and knowledge, and I will give instructions before I leave you, how to act upon the earth, whereby you may live. And he did so. So, you see that. He did so. He taught them. What do you think Yahushua was doing for 40 days? And what was it? And he taught them wisdom and knowledge, and he gave them instruction and reproved them. And he placed before them statutes and judgments to do upon the earth. And he made peace amongst them. And he taught them everlasting life. He taught them everlasting life. And dwelt with them some time, teaching them all these things. And at that time the sons of men were with Hanuk, and Hanuk was speaking to them. And they lifted up their eyes, and the likeness of a great horse descended from Shamayim. A great horse, a great vehicle, things that you travel in. It descended where? From Shamayim. Just like we just read in second Hanuk, where he was taken up, and he was taken from the earth to Rakia, and he went above the yam of the earth, and he saw another yam, another sea of water, and he saw all of the luminaries and all the stars and the malachim that live out in the Rakia. It's just like the water in the ocean. It's just like the water in the yam up there. And guess what it says? People say, why they be swimming? Why you show the ships swimming in the Shamayim like they like a whale in the ocean, like their arms be moving real slow? You say, why they be showing that? Why they show that to you how the ship be moving real slow? Just like the ocean. It's just like the yam in the ocean, just like that. And get what it says. It says, and at that time the sons of men were with Hanuk, and Hanuk was speaking to them, and they lifted up their eyes, and the likeness of a great horse descended, and the horse paced in the air. It was pacing in the air, moving round about. He said, hovering and moving. It was moving in the air. And guess what happened after that? And they told Hanuk what they had seen, and Hanuk said to them, on my account does this horse, this vehicle, descend upon earth. the time is come that I must go from you, and I shall no more be seen by you. And the horse descended at that time and stood before Hanuk, and all the sons of men that were with Hanuk saw him. And Hanuk then again ordered a voice to be proclaimed, saying, Where is the man who delighteth to know the ways of Yahuwah? Let him come this day to Hanuk before he is taken from us. And all the sons of men assembled, right? Skipping over to verse 32. And it was after that he arose up and rode upon the horse, and he went forth from all the sons of men, went after him, about 800,000 men. It says, and they went with him on a 1 day's journey. And the second day he said to them, Return home to your tents. Why will you go? Perhaps you will die. You may die. And some of them went from him, and those remained with him 6 days' journey. And Hanuk said to them, Every day return to your tents, lest you may die. He said, Why you follow me? You might die. He said, Return to your tents, lest you might die. You may die. You know what happened after that? And they were not willing to return, and they went with him. And on the 6th day, some of the men remained and clung to him. And they said to him, We will go with thee to the place where thou goest. As Yahuwah liveth, death only shall separate us. That's how people think. He said, you think you're gonna follow somebody, you think you're gonna go with somebody that has a higher calling than you. Because that's what some people think. He said, he got a higher calling than me, I'm gonna go with him. He said, lest you die. And you got what he said. And they urged so much to go with him, and he ceased speaking to them, and they went after him, and he would not return. And when the kings returned, they caused a census to be taken in order to know the number of the remaining men, and that went with Hanuk. And it was upon the 7th day that Hanuk ascended into Shamayim in a whirlwind with the horse and the chariots of fire. Right? He said, and he ascended. Right. So this is 1 Kings. This is 1 Kings, and 2 Kings, I think it is. 2 Kings chapter, I think it's 1. Second Kings chapter 1. 2 Kings chapter 1. Let's go to chapter 2. 2 Kings chapter 2, verse 1. Now when Yahuwah was about to take Aydah up to Shamayim by a whirlwind, you know what Hanuk left him? In the chariots of Yahuwah. He left him in a hover. It was hovering and moving, and watching him while he was teaching the sons of Yahuwah, and watching him the whole time. While he was teaching the sons of Yahuwah the whole time. And yet what it says, now when Yahuwah was about to take Aydah up to Shamayim by a whirlwind, Aydah and Aydahchay were on their way from Gilgal, and Aydah said to Aydahchay, Please stay here, for Yahuwah has sent me as far as Bethel. But Aydahchay said, As Yahuwah lives, and as you yourself live, I will not leave you. So they went and bowed down to Bethel, and the sons of the Nabiim who were in Bethel came out to Aydahchay and said to him, Do you know that today Yahuwah will take your master away from you? And he said, Yes, I know. Keep quiet, right? So you see, somebody got Aydah got a higher calling than Aydahchay. The same way Hanuk had a higher calling than 800,000 men that were following him. Just like Yahushua had a higher calling than the Shaly'shy. And everybody desires to follow somebody who has a higher calling than you. And he like, no, I have to go. This is way higher than you. And get what happens? And get what it says. And the sons of the Nabiim who were in Bethel came up to Aydahchay and said to him, Do you know that today Yahuwah will take your master away from you? And he said, Yes, I know. Keep quiet. And Aydahchay said to him, Aydahchay, please stay here, for Yahuwah has sent me to Jericho. And he said, As Yahuwah lives, and as you yourself live, I will not leave you. And that was the same thing they said to Hanuk. He said, we ain't going to leave you. We're going to follow you wherever you go. He said, go turn back and go to your tents, lest you die. And as you yourself live, I will not leave you. So they came to Jericho. The sons of the Nabi'im, who were at Jericho, drew near to Aydahchay and said to him, do you know that today your Yahuwah will take your master from you? And he answered, yes, I know. Keep quiet. Then Aydahchay said to him, please stay here, for Yahuwah has sent me to Yarden. But he said, as Yahuwah lives, and as your life live, I will not leave you. So the two of them went on. 50 men of the sons of the Nabi'im also went and stood at some distance from them. And as they both were standing by the Yarden, then Aydahchay took his cloak and rolled it up and stuck it in water, and the water was parted to one side and to the other, till the two of them could go over on dry ground. He said the water was parted to one side and to the other, till the two of them can go on dry ground. That's the same thing we read in the Bereshit chapter 1. Let all the waters be gathered in one place and let the dry land appear. Mashah lifted up his rod, let a strong east wind come, and let the waters go to the left and the right, and let the dry land appear. When you saw New Jerusalem come down, he said there were no more sea. The dry land appeared. And you know what happened after that? And guess what? It said that when they had crossed, Aydahchay said to Aydahchay, ask what I shall do for you. So you look at all that happen. Go in the book of Joshua. Go in the book of Joshua. Go in the book of Joshua. Verse 4 and verse 19. Book of Yahushua 4 and 19. The people came out of Jordan in the 10th day of the first month and encamped at Gilgal and on the east of the border of Jericho. And those 12 stones which they had took out of Jordan, Yahushua set out up on Gilgal. He said to the people of Yasharal, when the children of your fathers ask in the times to come, what do these stones mean? Then you shall let your children know Yasharal passed over Jordan on dry ground. Let the dry land appear. For Yahuwah, your Elohim, dried up the waters of Jordan for you until you pass over. Ask Yahuwah, your Elohim, did the Red Sea, and he dried up for us until we passed over, so that all the people of the earth may know that Yahuwah's hand, the hand of Yahuwah is mighty, and that you may fear Yahuwah, your Elohim. So the stones, they put the stones in the water. You know what happened? They were able to cross over. Right? Going to verse 15 to see. And Yahuwah said to Yahushua, command the priest bearing the ark of the testimony to come up out of Jordan. So Yahushua commanded the priest come up out of Jordan. Right? So going over to verse 8. And it says, and the people of Yasharal did just as Yahushua commanded them, and took up 12 stones out of the midst of the Yarden, according to the number of the tribes of the people of Yasharal, just as Yahuwah told Yahushua. And they carried them over with them to the place where they lodged, and laid them down there. And Yahushua set up 12 stones in the midst of Yarden, in the place where the feet of the priests bearing the ark of the covenant, Berith, had stood. And they are there to this day. It's still there. For the priest bearing the ark stood in the midst of Jordan until everything was finished, that Yahuwah commanded Yahushua to tell the people according to all that Mashah had commanded Yahushua. And the people passed over in haste. They left him. They crossed over in haste. It's people, you taking too long. The water's on the left and the right. It's dry ground. There's no more sea. There ain't no more river, no more water. And when the people had finished passing over, the ark of Yahuwah and the priests passed over before the people. The sons of Reuben, the sons of Gad, and the half tribe of Manasseh passed over armed before the people of Yasharal, right? Going to verse 15. And Yahuwah said to Yahusha, command the priest bearing the ark of the testimony to come out of Yarden. Right? All he was doing what Yahuwah said. All Hanukkah was doing what the Malachi had told him. All Yasha doing is what he already knew Yahuwah was going to take him. All Yahusha was doing what Yahuwah said. That's all they did. Go back to 1 Kings chapter 2, 2 Kings chapter 2, 2 Kings chapter 2. 2 Kings chapter 2, verse 6. It says, and Yahweh said to him, please stay here, for Yahuwah has sent me to Yarden. But he said, as Yahuwah lives, and as yourself lives, I will not leave you. So the two of them went on. 50 men of the sons of the Nabi'im also went, and stood at some distance from them, and they both were standing by Yarden. Then Yahweh took his cloak and rolled it up, and stuck the water, stuck the water, and the water was parted on the one side and the other, till the two of them could go over on dry ground. This has always been taking place throughout the Torah. If it was in the beginning, it was during the time the children of Yashar came out, during the time when Yahushua and them crossed over the Yarden. It was during this time. With all Yashar, it's always been happening. Water been split into the left and the right. It's going to happen when there's no more sea in the book of Hazum, when the bride is going to appear before her husband. And the tree of life going to appear, and the portal door going to open up. And you're going to see everything. The gateway. The water gate. Right? The gate door. Right? All that's a part of it. And when they had crossed, Yahweh said, Yasha, that's what I shall do for you. Once they cross over the Yarden, that's what happens when you go across on dry ground. You ask, what did Yahushua say? What did Yahushua say? What did he say to you, man? People see say, what did he say? Right, here we go. This is Matthew chapter 18, verse 15. Matthew 18, 15. Actually 18. He said, truly I say to you, whatsoever you bind on earth shall be bound in Shamayim. Whatsoever you loose on earth shall be loosed in Shamayim. Verse 19. Again I say to you, if two of you agree on earth in anything they ask, it will be done for you by your Father in Shamayim. For where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there am I among you, among them. Going back to 2 Kings chapter 2. 2 Kings chapter 2. In verse 9. 2 Kings chapter 2, verse 9. 2 Kings chapter 2 and verse 9. Right? And it says, and when they had asked, crossed, Yahweh said to Yasha, ask what I shall do for you before I am taken from you. And Yasha said, please let a double portion of your ruach on me. He said, please let there be a double portion of your ruach on me. That's what he said. Let a double portion fall on me. And he said, you have asked a hard thing. And what Yahushua said, any two touch and agree. He said, I'll do it for you. Matter of fact, anything you ask in my name in prayer, I'll do it for you too. He said, this is a hard thing you ask. Yet, if you see me, as I am being taken from you, it shall be so for you. But if you do not see me, it shall not be so. Guess what he said? And as they went on and talked, behold, the chariots and the fire and the horses of fire separated the two of them. And Yasha went up by a whirlwind in the Shamayim, which means he saw him taken. He saw him taken. He saw him taken. So he should receive that double portion. Didn't he ask for that? He saw him taken. So you should receive what you asked for. Because if you can see it, you can receive it. If you can't see it, then you can't receive something you can't see. You can't receive something you can't see. Right, so this is the book of Luke. This is the book of Luke. This is the book of Luke. Luke or Yah. I think it's John. I think it's Luke or Yah. Let's go. Yeah, Luke or Yah 24. Luke or Yah 24. Luke or Yah 24. Actually, no, it's Yochanan chapter 20. Yochanan chapter 20. Yochanan chapter 20. John chapter 20, verse 27. Then he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here and see my hands, and put out your hand and place it in my side. Do not disbelieve, but believe." Thomas said to him, "My master and my Elohim." Yahushua said to him, "Have you believed because you have seen it?" Can you see it? Because you can see it. Like you can't see all Yahoo being taken literally in the flesh, but you can believe it. So believing it is just as seeing it. So can you see him taken? Can you see all Yahoo taken in the chariot? Because all the men, 800,000, could see it. The ones he taught. And if you're taught by Yahushua, you should be able to see him taken. You should be able to see Hanuk taken. You should be able to see all Yahoo taken. In the flesh. And it says, "Have you believed because you have seen me? Barak are those who have not seen and yet believe," which means seeing is just like belief. You believe, you see. This book of Acts, chapter 1. Acts chapter 1 in verse 1. He said, seeing is believing. Right. Acts chapter 1, verse 12. Then they returned to Jerusalem and about from the Mount of Olivet, which is near Jerusalem, on the Shabbat day's journey away. And as they entered, they went up to the upper room. So this is after he was taken. Let's go over to verse 6. It says, "So when they had come, they asked him, 'Master, will you at this time restore the Malkuth to Yasharal?' And he said to them, 'It is not for you to know the times and the seasons of the Father has fixed by his own authority, but you will receive power when the Kudash Ruach is upon you, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria and the ends of the earth.'" He said, "Give me a double portion of your Ruach." He said, "You're going to get it." And when he had said these things, as they were looking on, he was lifted up, and a cloud took them out of his sight. He said, "You saw me taken? If you can see me taken, I'll give you a double portion of my Ruach." Can you see him taken? Can you see him? Do you believe it that he was taken without even seeing him? He said, then the Ruach is given to you if you believe it. If you believe it. And when he had said these things, they were looking on, and was lifted up, and a cloud took him out of their sight. And while they were grazing up in the Shamayim, as he went, behold, two men stood by them in white robes. Isn't that what Hanuk saw by his bed? First he was dreaming, then he saw the two giant men standing right in front of his face. And he took him from the Rakia. He took him into the Rakia and showed him all of the waters and the Yam and the Rakia, and showed him all of the fishes and the things and the luminaries and the planets and everything that's there. And the stars and the Malaki. Where do you think Yahushua going? He going the same place. He about to leave the earth. And when he had said these things, as they were looking on, he was lifted up in the cloud, Abraku Kanaf Halak Ruah. And they were taken out of his sight. He was seen riding on the wings of the wind. Just like Yahshua was seen riding on the wings of the wind. Just like Hanuk was seen riding on the wings of the wind. They were gone. They left this earth. They left the earth. And while they were gazing up in the Shamayim as they went, behold, two men stood by them in white robes. And he said, "Men of Galilee, why do you stand here and looking in the Shamayim? With this Yahushua, who was taken up from you into Shamayim, will come in the same way he was taken. He was gone in the Shamayim." So he's coming back. So his higher calling is greater than yours. His calling was greater than all of us. Just like Hanuk's calling was greater. Just like Yahu's calling is greater. Just like Mashah's calling was greater. That's why he told the woman, don't touch me not. That's why he told him, don't touch me. He said, neither shall you go to your wives. Why? Because I have a higher calling. As he spoke about before. He had a higher calling. And then when it was time for him to go up, he said, don't even go near the mountain, neither shall you touch the edge of it. Don't you even touch the edge of it. Right? And he said, why he did that? Because he had a higher calling. He said, going back to 2 Kings chapter 2, verse 9. 2 Kings chapter 2, verse 9. Going to 2 Kings chapter 2 and verse 10. And he said, you have asked a hard thing. Yet, if you see me as I am being taken from you, it shall be for you. But if you do not see me, it shall not be so. Do you see it? Do you see it? And if you can, he said it will be so, if you believe it. And get what it says. You know what it says right there? But it said right here. And as they were still went on talking, behold, the chariots of the fire of the horses had separated the two of them. And Yasha went up in a whirlwind to the Shamayim. And now Yasha saw it, and he cried, my father, the chariots of Yasharal and its horsemen. And he saw it, him no more. You know the chariots of Yasharal look like? Chariots of Yasharal don't look like no chariot with no chariot wheel, no horse, a horse on the front of it. Chariots of Yasharal don't look like that. Chariots of Yasharal have a little bit more, how you say it? Fire with it. He said it's higher technology than what you think you see here. You think what we got is tech. You think the craft that you see in the Shamayims, that ain't has nothing to do on Yahuwah's technology and what he has. The things that he has that you've never seen before. And they fly in and out of here all the time. It's just like the cloud. Abraku Kanaf Halat Ruah. He said, man, it's just like the clouds. He said, you ain't never seen nothing like it before. He says, and guess what? And Yasha went up in a whirlwind to Shamayim, and Yasha saw it, and he cried, my father, the chariots of Yasharal and his horsemen. And he saw him no more. And he took hold of his cloth and tore it in two pieces. And he took the cloth of Yahu that had fallen from him and went back and stood on the bank of Yarden. So he did the same thing. And then he took the cloak of Yahu that had fallen from him and struck the water, saying, where is Yahuwah, the Elohim of all Yahu? Where is the Elohim of all Yahu? He smote the Yarden. He said, where is the Elohim of all Yahu? And he smote Yarden with the actual cloak that he had. And then when he had struck the water was parted on the one side and the other, and Yasha went over on dry ground. He said, if you see me taken, I'll give you a double portion of my ruach. He said, but you got to believe it. You got to believe it. How else are you going to get to the other side? How are you going to cross over to the other side if you don't believe it? How are you going to cross the other side? Right? Right, so we're going to the book of how you going to cross over to the other side, right? Right, we're going to this book. Here we go. Right, we're going to 2nd Enoch, actually Apocalypse of Elijah, Yahu. Apocalypse of Yahu. Apocalypse of Yahu. Apocalypse of Aydah. Apocalypse of Aydah, Elijah, Pseudepigrapha, Volume 1. Pseudepigrapha, Volume 1. In verse 18. Verse 18. It says, "Now I tell you his signs so that you might know him. For he has two sons, one on the right and one on the left. The one on his right will receive a demonic face, and he will fight against the name of Elohim. Now the 4 kings will descend from the king in the 13th year, and he will come up from Memphis, and he will build a temple in Memphis. On that day, his 2 sons will arise against him and kill him. The whole land is disturbed." Right? Let's go to where we at? Yeah, let's go to verse 2. Actually, chapter 3, Apocalypse of Aydah 3 and 2. I see 3 and 1. "In the 4th year of the king, the son of the lawless will appear, saying, I am Mashiach. Although he is not, don't believe him. It said, when Mashiach comes, he will come in the manner that conveys of doves, with the crown of doves surrounding him. He will walk upon the Shamayim vaults, with the sign of the cross leading him. And the whole world will behold him like the sun, which shines from the eastern horizon to the western. This is how he will come, with his Malachim surrounding him. But the son of the lawless, he will begin to stand again in the Qahalath places. And he will say to the sun, fall, and it will fall." So he's going to have power over the sun. And get what it says. "And he will say to shine, and it will do it. He will say darken, and it will do it. He will say to the moon, become bloody, and it will do it. And he will go forth, with them from the sky. And he will walk upon the sea and the rivers as upon dry land. And he will cause the lame to walk, and cause the deaf to hear, and cause the dumb to speak. And he will cause the blind to see, and the lepers will cleanse. And the ill he will heal. The demons he will cast out. He will multiply his signs and his wonders in the presence of everyone. And he will do works which the Mashiach did, except for raising the dead alone. In this you will know that he is the son of lawless, because he is unable to give life." Because you know what was Kua's name? Kua's name meant life giver. Kua's name meant life giver. Right? "Behold, I will tell you his signs, so that you might know him. He is a skinny-legged lad, having tuft of gray hair in the front of his head, bald head. His eyebrows will reach his ears. There is leprous bare spot on the front of his hands. He will transform himself into the presence of those who see him. He will become a young child. He will become old. He will transform himself with every sign." It's like just like Abraham, when he went to go offer in the book of Yasher, went to go offer his son, and he appeared him as an old man and a young man. Satan transformed himself many times into a young man and an old man. That's what he does. It says, "But the sign of his head will not be able to change. Therein you will know that he is the son of lawless." Right? All right, going to verse 7, chapter 4, verse 7. Then all Yahu and Enoch hear that the shameless one has revealed himself in the Qahalath place. They will come down and fight with him. So the very same 2 people that were taken, Hanuk, like Yahusha, and all Yahu like Yahusha, he said they're going to hear that he down here, and they're going to come here, back here. And guess what happens? It says, "And will come down and fight with him, saying, are you indeed not ashamed when you attach yourself to the Qadashim, the saints, because you are always estranged? You have been hostile to those who belong to Shamayim. You have acted against those belonging to the earth. You have been hostile to the thrones. You have acted against the Malachim. You are always a stranger. You have fallen upon the Shamayims like the morning stars. You were changed, and your tribe became dark for you. Huh? And your what? And your tribe became dark for you. And you know what happened? But you are not ashamed. When you stand firmly against Elohim, you are a devil. You know what I'm saying? You are Satan. You are a devil. That's what happens when you do that to him. When you stand firmly against Yahuwah Elohim, he said, you are Satan too. You are a devil too. That's why he said, Yahushua said in Yuchanan chapter 8, you are your father Satan. He said, you are your father Satan. Because Satan appeared before Yahuwah too. Right? Verse 13, the shameless one will hear and will be angry, and he will fight with them in the marketplace in the great city. And he will spend 7 days fighting with them. He's going to spend a whole week. And they will spend 3½ days in the marketplace dead, while the people see them. But on the 4th day they will rise up, and they will scold him, saying, O shameless one, O son of lawless, are you indeed not ashamed of yourself, since you are leading astray the people of Elohim, from whom you did not suffer? Do you not know that we live in Yahuwah? And as the words were spoken, they prevailed over him, saying, furthermore, we will lay down the flesh for the Ruach. And we will kill you, since you are unable to speak on that day, because you are always strong in Yahuwah. But you always are hostile to Elohim. The shameless one will hear, and he will be angry and fight with them, and the whole city will surround them. And on that day they will shout up to Shamayim. They will shout up to Shamayim as they shine, while all the people and all the world will see them. He said all the people and all the world will see them. Right, so this is the book of Revelation, Hazun, chapter 11. The book of Revelation, chapter 11 and verse 1. The book of Revelation, Hazun, chapter 11, verse 1. It says, then I was given a measuring rod as a staff, and I was told, rise and measure the temple of Elohim and the altar, those who worship there. But do not measure the court outside the temple. Leave it that out, for it is given to the nations, and they will trample the great city for 42 months. And I will grant authority to my 2 witnesses, and they will nabba 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. How you say? Clothed in sackcloth. He said they're going to be black to the ground. How you say? Just like, he said, my tears will be my bread. My ashes will be my bread, and my tears will be my food. These are the 2 olive trees and the 2 lamps that stand before Yahuwah and the earth. If anyone will harm them, fire pours out of their mouth and consumes their foe. One of the 2 men that came in front of Hanuk, and they appeared to Hanuk, and he said, man, they had fire all around them. They had fire in their tongue too. And they shine like the sun. Right? And it said right here, and if anyone will harm them, fire pours out of their mouth and consumes their foe. It's like all Yahoo. What did all Yahoo say? If I be a man of Elohim, let fire come down and consume you. Is not you the bar like fire? If anyone will harm them, this is how they will be doomed, be killed. They have power to shut the sky, and no rain may fall during the day of their Naba. They're prophesying. And they have power over the waters to turn them into blood, and to strike the earth with every kind of plague as often as they desire. He said, so what? And when they have finished their testimony, the beast that rises from the bottomless pit will make war with them and conquer them and kill them. And their dead bodies will lie in the street of the great city, symbolically called Sodom and Mizraim, where their master was crucified. For 3½ days, some of the peoples and the tribes and the languages and nations will gaze at their dead bodies and refuse to let them be placed in tombs. And those who dwell on the earth will rejoice over them and make merry and exchange presents, because these 2 Nabi'im have been who had torment to those who dwell on the earth. But after 3.5 days, the breath of Elohim, the Neshama, from Elohim entered them, and they stood on their feet, and great fear fell on those who saw them. Then they heard a loud voice from Shamayim saying, come up here. And they went up into Shamayim in a cloud. You know what Yahushua did? You know what Hanuk did? You know what all Yahoo did? They all left in the cloud. They left. They came down, experienced death, and they left. You get what happened? And they went up to Shamayim in the cloud with their enemies, and their enemies watched. At that hour, there was a great earthquake. The earth shook, because it was loud noise. You know that his voice shook the earth. You say you be visited by Yahuwah with earthquakes, storms, pestilence, earthquakes, famine. And the 10th part of the city fell. 7,000 people were killed in the earthquake, and the rest were terrified and gave kabod to Elohim and Shamayim. He said all that took place. All that took place. Right. And that's what happened. It says right here, going back to Apocalypse of Aydah, chapter 4 and verse 16. And it says, and the words were spoken, and they prevailed for him, saying, furthermore, we will lay down the flesh of the Ruach, and we will kill you, since you are unable to speak on that day, because we are always strong in Yahuwah. But you are always hostile to Elohim. And the shameless one will hear, and he will be angry and fight with them, and the whole city will surround them. And on that day, they will shout up to Shamayim as they shine, while all the people of the world see them. And guess what happens after that? And guess what happens after that? Right, going to chapter. Yeah, going to this book. Going to. Right, so this is the book of Yusuf, the life of Marim, mother of Yahusha. Right, so this is chapter. Right, so this is verse 32 of that book. Actually, verse 31. It says, and our Savior answered and said, indeed, the prophecy of my father upon Adam for his disobedience has now been fulfilled, and all things are arranged according to the will and pleasure of my Father. For if a man rejects the commandment of Elohim and follows the works of Satan, the devil, by committing sin, his life is prolonged. For B is preserved in order that he may perhaps repent. But that's all it's about. It's about, that's what he read in the Testament of Yitzhak. He said it was only for the improvement of man. He was correcting you for improvement, for love, for his land. That's what he's doing it for. That you may repent. Because he's long-suffering to all, that none should perish, but all should get everlasting life. And guess what? And reflect, he says, but for B is, for if a man rejects the commandment of Elohim and follows the works of Satan by committing sin, his life is prolonged. For B is preserved in order that he may perhaps repent and reflect that he must be delivered into the hands of death. If anyone has been zealous of good works, his life also is prolonged, that as the fame of his old age increases, the upright man may imitate him. Right? That they may imitate him because of his good works. But guess what? But when you see a man whose mind is prone to anger, assuredly his days are shortened. Now you see why it tells you to put away fits of anger and wrath. Because it'll shorten your life. He said you got to put all these things away. Because you know, a soft answer turns away anger. People who don't give soft answers to you, they will literally shorten your life and drive you to anger. People who lie to you will drive you to wrath. Previous words stir up wrath. It will literally shorten your life. It will. That person will kill you. If you don't have self-control in that area of your life. And it says right here, and it says, and reflects that he must be delivered into the hands of death. But if anyone has been zealous of good works in life, also is prolonged, that as the fame of his old age increases, the upright may imitate him. That's why Yasha, when he was taken, or Yahoo was taken, Hanuk, Yahusha Mashiach, all that immersion Yahusha had put him on, that you may imitate him. How he said the dead in Mashiach gonna rise first. How you gonna rise? You got to have the same wisdom and understanding. You got to have wisdom and understanding within yourself. It said, but when you see a man whose mind is prone to anger, surely his days are shortened, a man or woman, for it is in these they are taken away in the flower of their age, in their young age, before their time. Every prophecy, therefore, which my Father has pronounced concerning the sons of men must be fulfilled in every particular. But with reverence to Hanuk and Eliyahu, but with reverence to Enoch and Eliashib, and how they remain alive to this day. They were taken up in the flesh, in the chariots of fire from the earth. And guess what it says right here? How they remain alive to this day, keeping the same bodies with which they were born. They were taken from earth. You know how people say you were taken from the planet Earth? They still have the same bodies with which they were born, and as to what concern my father Yusuf, who has not been allowed as well as they to remain in the body. Indeed, though a man live in the world many myriads of years, nevertheless at some time or the other he is compelled to exchange his life for death. I say to you, O my brethren, that they also, Hanuk, Enoch, and Eliyahu, must towards the end of time return to the world and die. Why do you think the two witnesses were in Revelation? Because why do you think he was saying they're gonna, when the false Mashiach comes, they're gonna be the ones that go and martyr their lives? Why they gotta put off their body? Remember, they had put off their body, they got killed in the street, and then he heard the sound of the voice, and they put the neshama back in the ruach, kai nefesh, and they went right back to the shamayim in a cloud, just like Yahusha. He said they must die. It says, return to the world and die in the day, namely the commotion of the terror and the perplexity and affliction. For anti-Mashiach will slay 4 bodies, and will pour out their blood like water, because of the reproach to which they shall expose him. They're going to expose him. We just read it. He said, you lawless one. And you know what happened? And he, ignominy, with which they in their lifetime shall brand him, when they reveal his impiety. And we said, O Master, our Elohim and Savior, who are those for whom thou hast said any Mashiach will cut off from the reproach they bring upon him? And Yahuwah said, they are Hanuk, Enoch, Eliashib, Cecilia, and Tabitha. When we heard this from our master, we rejoiced and exulted, and we offered, what they do? We offered all kabod and thanksgiving to Yahuwah Elohim, the Savior and Mashiach. He it is whom do the kabod, honor, and dignity, dominion forever and ever. Right. So all these in these books, right? But right, going back to the apocalypse of Eliyahu. Apocalypse of Eliyahu, going to chapter 4, verse 1. It says, a virgin her name is Tabitha, will hear that the shameless one has revealed himself in the Qahalath places. And she will put on her garments of fine linen, and she will pursue him unto Judea, scolding him up to Jerusalem, saying, O shameless one, O son of lawless, O you who have been hostile to all Qadashim. Then the shameless one will be angry at the virgin, and he will pursue her to the regions of sunset, and he will suck her blood at evening and kill her. And he will cast her upon the temple, and she will become a healing for the people. She will rise up at dawn, and she will live and scold him, saying, O shameless one, you have no power against my soul or my body, because I live in Yahuwah always. And also my blood, which you have cast upon the temple, has become the healing for the people, right? Right, so this is the book of Ascension of Yeshayahu. Ascension of Yeshayahu, chapter 4. Ascension of Yeshayahu, chapter 4. Ascension of Yeshayahu, chapter 4, and verse 1. And now, Kazekiah and Jasab, my son, these are the days of completion of the world. After it is consummated, Satan, by law, the great ruler and the king of the world, will descend, who have ruled it since it came into being. Yea, he will descend from his firmament, from the Rakia, in the likeness of a man. So he's going to come from the firmament, the Rakia. You know what Hanuk was when they took him from there? He's going to come from the cosmos. You don't know where he come from. He come from Uranus. He come from Pegasus Galaxy. He come from the how you say Pleiadian star system, like they say. And all these other places that people, think that ain't real. Things that people think, oh, that's not possible. Right? This thing can't happen. Nobody can come to the earth like that. How did Yahushua come here? He came in the form of a man. And he said he will descend and he have ruled it since it came into being. Yea, he will descend from his firmament into the likeness of a man, a lawless king, the slayer of his mother, who himself, even this king, will persecute the plant with the 12 shalakim. He will persecute the plant, the tree bearing 12 manners of fruit. That's you. He said, if you bearing 12 manners of fruit, if you the tree of life. Because wisdom is such for your soul. Bearing the 12 manners of fruit, beloved have planted, of the 12, one will be delivered into his hands. This ruler is the form of the king. This is the Giza edition, actually. This ruler is the form of the king will come, and there will come with him all the powers of this world, and they will hearken unto him in all that he desires. And at his word the sun will rise, and at night he will make the moon to appear at the 6th hour. That's the same thing what happened with Yahushua. It was darkness over the land to the 6th and the 9th hour. He's going to be doing the same thing. Then we just read in Aydah, Apocalypse of Aydah. He's going to say, sun, go down, moon, rise. And they're going to obey him. And it says, which means the Malachi are going to obey him, that are over these things. He said, Malachi, can't do that, okay. And at his word, the sun will rise at night, and he will make the moon to appear in the 6th hour. And it says, and all that he hath desired, he will do in the world. And he will do and speak like the beloved. And he will say, I am Elohim. And before me there has been none. And all the people in the world will believe in him. And they will sacrifice to him, and they will serve him, saying, this is Elohim, and besides him there is no other. And greater number of those who shall have been associated together in order to receive the beloved, he will turn aside after him. And there will be the power of miracles in every city and region. And he will set up his image before him in every city. He said, you're going to work. He said, worship. And he shall bear sway 3 years and 7 months and 20 days. And many believers in the Chdsh, having seen him, for whom they were hoping, who was crucified, Yahushua Mashiach. After that, Aydahchay had seen him, who was crucified and ascended, and those also who were believers in him. Of these few in those days will be left as his servants, while they flee from desert to desert, awaiting the coming of the beloved. Right? And after 1,332 days, Yahuwah, the Master, will come with his Malachim, with his armies of the Kudash one, from the 7 Shamayim. They come from the 7 Shamayim. They're going to come from the 7 Shamayim. And guess what's going to happen from the 7 Shamayim? With the kabod of the 7 Shamayim. And he will drag Satan into the Gehenna, or he says into Sheol, and his armies. And he will give rest to the righteous, whom he shall find in the body in this world. And the son will be ashamed. Why? Because he obeyed him. Because he obeyed him. I mean, the son not going to give up his light anymore. have no need. And all who, because of their amunah in him, have execrated Baalar and his kings, and all will be ashamed, all of them. Because remember he talks about, and that what you heard from the beginning? They're going to shrink in his shame, right, when he comes. But the saints, the Chdshim, will come with your master with their garments, which are now stored up on high in the 7 Shamayim. In the 7 Shamayim. With the master they will come, whose spirits are clothed, they will descend and be present in the world. And he will strengthen those who have been found in the body, together with the Chdshim in the garments of the Chdshim, and Yahuwah will minister, and the master will minister to those who have kept watch in the world. That's why he told you there's always a night of much watching. Ayin ish lapid. That's why your 7 near, your 7 eyes gotta always be lit. And there's always a night of much watching. You're watching for Lahuyathan, Baila, Satan, Mustama. You're watching for Adoli and Al-Sabi and Al-Sabi. You're watching for Aldi and Al-Dal. You're watching for these beings. You're looking for Asmodee and Asmodeus. You're watching. It's not much watching. How you gonna know about what's watching? He said the moon gonna rule by night, the yard. That's how you know what a watch is. He said a feminine nature. That's why he said you supposed to rule by night. He said her candle don't go out by night. That's what it says in Proverbs 31. Mostly Proverbs 31. There's always not much watching. And it says right here, and they kept watch in the world. That's why he told Yakazi, I made you a watchman to the house of Yasharal. The same Yakaziel who spoke to the dry bone, and he spoke the water to the dry bone, he said, live. He said he spoke and he nodded to him, right? Going over to verse 17. And afterwards they will come, they will turn themselves upward in their garments, and their body will be left in the world. He said they're going to go in the Ruach form, in the form where they reached their original state. Your soul, your nefesh, the other part of you that you can't see. It says that then the voice of the beloved will in wrath rebuke the things of the Shamayims and the things on the earth and the things of the earth and the mountains and the hills and the cities and the deserts and the forests and the Malachi of the sun and the moon and all things wherein Baalar manifested himself and acted openly in the world. He said, I'm going to destroy it all. He said, rocks falling us and hide us from him who sits on the throne. That's what's going to happen. We just read that in this 4th Baruch and 4th Azra and 2nd Baruch. He said all these things are going to happen. He said his voice shakes the earth. And guess what happens? And Baalar manifested himself and acted openly in the world. And there will be a resurrection and a judgment in the midst in those days. And the beloved will cause fire to go forth from him. And it will consume all the godless, the unrighteous, and they will be as though they had not been created. He said, they're going to be like you never even were here. He said, why he said it's going to be like you never was here? This is why. Remember, they left their body and left their body on earth. But he said, these people, he said their body's not even going to be here. They're going to be like they never was here. This is Matthew chapter 10, verse 26. Matthew chapter 10, verse 26. So have no fear of them, for nothing is covered that will not be revealed, or hidden that will not be known. What I tell you in the dark, say in the light, and what you hear whispered, proclaim on the housetops. And do not fear those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. So you got somebody who killed the body and the soul, your nefash. Rather fear him who can destroy body and soul. So that means soul and nefesh. I say nefesh. Your outer man and your inner man. And body in Sheol. That's how you're going to know they're not going to be here no more. They're going to be like they never was here. And guess what? Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? And not one of them will fall on the ground apart from your father, but even the hairs of your head are not numbered. Fear not. Therefore, you are more valuable than many sparrows. You are. Verse 19, and the rest of the words of the vision is written in the vision of Babylon. Right, they got all your stuff. But it said right here, and the rest of the vision regarding Yahuwah, behold, it is written in the 3 parables according to the words which are written in the book, which I publicly prophesy. Right. All that's going to take place, right? But it says, he said, beloved, right? Right, so this is the book of, I think it's Kings. Going to First Kings, I think. First Kings. Yeah. First Kings. Yeah, First Kings chapter 17. First Kings chapter 17, verse 14. It says, for thus says Yahuwah, the Elohim Yasharal, the jar of flour shall not be spent, and the jug of oil shall not be empty, until the day that Yahuwah sends rain upon the earth. And she went and did as Yahweh said, and she and he and her household ate for many days. The jar of flour was not spent, neither did the jug of oil become empty, according to the word of Yahuwah that he spoke to all Yahweh. He said, they didn't even dissipate. He said, it's still here. He said, the flour and the oil, he said, it's all still here. He said, it's still here, right? So this is the book of Leviticus chapter 3 and verse 1. Leviticus chapter 3, verse 1. Leviticus chapter 3, verse 1. Actually, Leviticus chapter 4, verse 1. Leviticus chapter 4, verse 1. Yes, I think it is. I guess I'm doing this wrong. Yeah, Leviticus chapter 2, verse 1. I said that wrong, the other one too. Leviticus chapter 2, verse 1. It says, when anyone brings a grain offering as an offering to Yahuwah, his offering shall be of fine flour, and shall pour oil on it, put frankincense on it, and bring it to Aharon and the priest, and he shall take from it a handful of fine flour of oil and its frankincense, and the priest shall burn this as a memorial portion on the altar, a food offering for a pleasing aroma to Yahuwah. But the rest of the grain offering shall be for Aharon and his sons. It is the most Qahalath part of Yahuwah's food offering. He said, that's my food offering. But you look at all this, and you say, what does this got to do with anything, right? What does this got to do with anything, right? So this is the book of Pseudo-Philo. Pseudo-Philo, that's what it's called. Pseudepigrapha. This is volume, I think it's 2. This is Pseudo-Philo. Yeah, Pseudo-Philo, Pseudepigrapha, volume 2, chapter 48. We almost finished. It says, and in that time, Phinehas laid himself down to die. And Yahuwah said to him, behold, you have passed 120 years that you have been established for every man. He said, you passed it. And now rise up and go. So you're going to reach 120 years. You know how people say. And he says, and get what he said. You reached 120 years and have been established for every man. And now rise up and go from here and dwell in Dandan on the mountain. And dwell there many years. I thought you were supposed to go past 120 years. He said, go back. He said, dwell there many years. And I will command my eagle, my Netzar, and he will nourish you there. And you will not come down to mankind until the time arrives, and you, it says, and you be tested in that time. And you will shut up Shamayim then by your mouth. And it will be opened up. And afterwards you will be lifted up into the place where those who were before you were lifted up. Who was before him that was lifted up? Eliyahu and a Hanuk. and you will be there until I remember the world. You know what else he said? Then I will make you all come, and you will taste what is death. So who do you think that was? We saw Tabitha. We saw Aydah. We saw Hanuk. Oh, that was the other guy. You know, the other guy. And guess what he said? He said, you will taste death. And guess what it says? And Phinehas went up and did all that Yahuwah commanded him. Now in those days, when he appointed Eli as Kahan, he anointed him in Shiloh. Now in that time, when he went up, the sons of Yasharal were celebrating Pesach. Oh, when they were doing what? They were celebrating Pesach. And they commanded the sons of Benjamin, saying, go up and get wives for yourselves, because you cannot give you and our daughters, right? This is during the time of Judges. But get what it says. For he made a vow at that time in our anger, and let it happen. He said, let it not happen that one tribe be blotted out from Yasharal. And the sons of Benjamin went up and seized for themselves wives and built for themselves Gabon and began to dwell there. And while the sons of Yasharal were at rest in the meantime, they had no leader in those days, and each one did what was pleasing in his own eyes. And these are the commandments and the judgments and the testimony and manifestations that were in the days of the judges of Yasharal before the kings ruled over them. So he said Phinehas was taken up. And he said, those before you, when the other ones were taken up, he said, you're going to come back with them. He said, but people have been going out of this earth a lot, many times. He said, some of them ain't even taste death. Some people don't believe this, right? But it's okay. You ain't got to, right? Right, so this is the book of this is the book of Matthew, chapter 16, verse 24. Matthew 16:24. People don't believe this type of stuff. So here we go. And then Yahushua told his disciples, if anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whosoever will save his life will lose it, and whosoever loses his life for my sake will find it. For what will it profit a man if he gain the whole world and lose his whole soul? Well, what will it profit you if you ain't got no wisdom? Or what shall a man give in return for his soul? For the son of Adam is going to come with his Malachim. The son of Yahuwah come with his Malachim. We read it in Ascension Yeshayahu. And get what? The son of Adam is coming with his Malachim in his kabod of his father. And they will repay each person according to what he has done. Truly I say to you, there are some standing here who will not taste death until they see the son of Yahuwah coming in his kingdom. People don't believe that. Nah, that's not true. Nah, there's no people still living here on earth that was during the time of Yahushua. He said, believe what you want. Oh, you afraid they probably were watching you on YouTube? He said, man, they ain't been watching me on there. They ain't been watching us. He said, nah, that ain't true. Right? There's a lot of things that people don't believe. But at the same time, as you keep reading through these books, he say, oh, it's not true. Right? Right, so this is the book of, you know how they say, there's no way that can happen, right? So this is the book of Genesis. This is the book of Genesis. Right, there's no way. You know how they say. There's no way. Because people don't believe that, right? Right, this is the book of Genesis, right? This is the book of Genesis, chapter, I think it's 10. This is the book of Genesis, chapter 10. I believe. Right? Yeah, I think it's chapter 10. Yeah, go to the book of Genesis, chapter 10, verse 1. Bereshit, chapter 10, and verse 1. Actually, go to Bereshit, chapter 9, and verse 20. It says, and Noah began to be a man of the soil, and he planted a vineyard, and he drank the wine and became drunk and lay uncovered in his tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father and told his brothers outside. Then Shem, Japheth, and took the garment and laid it both on their shoulders and walked backwards and covered the nakedness of their father. Their faces turned backwards, and they did not see their father's nakedness. Then Noah awoke from his wine and knew all that his youngest son had done to him. And he said, cursed be Canaan. A servant of servants he will be to his brothers. He also said, Barak be Yahuwah, the Elohim of Shem, and let Canaan be his servants. May Elohim enlarge Japheth, and let him dwell in the tents of Shem, and let Canaan be his servant. And after the flood, Hanuk lived 350 years. Nobody can live that long. That's no way in the world. How can you live that long? And all the days of Noah were 950 years, and he died. Man, almost lived 1,000 years. So you think, if Yahuwah allow a person to live in the flesh 1,000 years, and he say, okay, you know what? Some of y'all not going to taste death for another 1,000, 200,000, 300,000 years, right? So what makes you think that's impossible? The man made everything. He can shake the earth with his voice. He can literally have a Malachite standing and have their wings touch and literally shake this whole place. He can shake the Shamayim. He said it's an easy thing. You think that's hard? You think it's hard for him to give you eternal life? You think it's a hard thing for him to allow you to live forever and ever? You ever seen a Ruach die, a spirit die? And going to Sheol? You ever seen that before? That's a small thing for you who would allow a man to stay in the flesh. He's like, that's not possible. No, that's not possible. I know, because you allow Satan to get in your head, and then you allow his seeds in your mind. From the time you've been born until now, you allow his seeds to convince you and dumb you down to the point of lower thought, and not allow your mind and your thoughts and your mind to think past your flesh and your thought process on what Yahuwah actually is. Because he wants you to keep sinning and shorten your life with all this anger and wrath and all these hatred and envy, and destroy your life and your kidneys and your liver, and make you have organ failure before you're 50 years old. That's the only reason. That's the only reason he created this whole world, to control your thoughts. And you convinced yourself that Yahuwah can't do stuff like this. Now it's impossible for you even to understand it. Because your Lashon is not, gentle anymore. Your language is not gentle anymore. It's not full of kindness anymore. It's not full of love anymore. So therefore, none of these things exist in your life or in your mind. Because all you think about is yourself. You think about your selfish self. You think about your hatred in your heart and all the wickedness and the things that control your mind and shorten your life. That's all you think about. And the things you never got a chance to do, the things you never got a chance to experience, the things you never got a chance to know. Guess what? All that's doing is just destroying your whole heart and your mind, and not allowing you to even live. That's what Satan created. He put this shadow of death all around you. And guess what? It's inside of you. But Yahushua said, I come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. Matter of fact, as rain and snow come down from Shamayim, so does the Barbie that goes in the mouth to wash you of all your idols, even your idols of anger. So some people worship it. Some people worship bitterness. Some people worship stubbornness. Some people worship it. That's your God. That's your Elohim. You know how I say you got idols in their heart? That's your idol. Your idol is your stubbornness. Your idol is your anger. Your idol is your wrath. Your idol is your resentment. Your idol is your bitterness. Your idol is fornication. Your idol is adultery. Your idol is lust. Your idol is shortening your life. Your idol blocks your mind and your consciousness from even your diet and what you eat. Satan got your insulin off. He got everybody. He got your insulin off. He got you storing up all these things off. He got your old insulin off down, so he can take control of your body and fill your body with parasites and control you. Because he lowered your thought process. He don't want you to be connected with the wind and the ruach and the shama anymore. He don't want you to create. He wants you to create your own reality. He wants you to create your own life. Without the debar, without Yahuwah's voice inside of you, right? That's all he wants. But he lived 960 years. So what makes you think? And you know the sad part is? You know the sad part about belief? Right, we almost finished, and I'm gonna be done. It's on the rant. But he said right here, I'm just on the rant, right? This right here, this is the book of, this is why you gotta change your mind. This is Matthew chapter 24, verse 36. But concerning the days and the hour, no one knows, not even the Malachim and Shamayim, the ones in the 7 Shamayim is gonna come with Yahushua Mashiach. Not even them. All Yahuwah is gonna do is give the order, Son, Ben, Malachim, Bo, Yatsa, Anats. That's all he's gonna do. That's all he's gonna say. And they're gonna come down here. And that's it. That's all he's gonna do. But concerning the day or hour, no man, not even the Malachim and Shamayim, nor the Son, but the Father only, but Yahuwah only. For as were the days of Nuach, so will be the coming of the son of Adam. Nuach lived 930 years. He was 350 years after the flood. He lived over 500 years before the flood even happened. And he'd be like, nah, no way he can live that long. 1,000 years? That's crazy. Yeah, I know. For as were the days of Nuach, so will the coming of the son of Adam. For in those days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Nuach was into the ark. They were committing adultery, fornication, they were doing all the things. And that's 500 years. So that's 500 years Nuach in the ark. 520 years he building the ark. And they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving. He watching 520 years of people. And they were unaware until the flood came and swept them all away. So he wasn't broken down in body either, because there ain't no way in the world you could build an ark broken down in your body. You gonna build a womb of a woman and then be broken down in your body? He's like, man, I built a whole womb for a whole bunch of animals too. And you know what happened? And you get what it says. Until the day when Noah entered the ark, and they were unaware until the flood came and swept them all away. So will it be when the coming of the son of Yahuwah. 2 men will be grinding, 2 men will be in the field, one taking the other left. The woman will be grinding at the mill, one taking the other left. That's the same thing would happen when Yahushua come back here. That's the same thing that happens when you saw all the men we just talked about taking up in the Shamayim. Therefore, stay awake. He say, have your lamps burning, because all you got to be watching. As we read in the Simpson Yeshua. Stay awake. Stay woke. You know what he said? Stay woke. Because you are energy. Your thought process produces electrical impulses. It formulates and creates. It formulates and creates everything you think about. Whatever you think about, that's what you will be. If you are Elohim, you are a God, a Elohim, that's what you will be. If you believe that, that's what you will be. If you continue to say that, that's what you will be. If you say something less than that, that's what you will be. And then if you say, I'm not a farmer, I don't plant a vineyard, and I don't do these type things, then guess what? That's what you will not be. And I don't have no wisdom and leisure, I don't meditate, that's what you will not be. But if you think on these things, he said your makashiva, your yetzer, your imagination on these things, but if you around people who don't, and they keep speaking words and seizing your mind and keep lowering your thought process down to the level of an animal, then guess what happens? That's what you will be. But if you think past that, then that's what you will be. And they were unaware until the flood came and swept them all away. It's going to happen so fast, so suddenly. They say, no, that's not going to happen. I ain't talking about a flood. But Yahushua ain't going to come back with his Malachim from the 7th Shamayim, with garments from the 7th Shamayim to clothe those who are ready and watching for him. Yeah, he's not going to do that. No, there's no way. Nobody still here ain't taste death. Everybody has died. Okay. He said, beware. He said, everybody saw y'all. Everybody saw it. He said, they'll open the thing up, looked on you, said, man, these people are Yahushua are sure to return. Just like Ascension and Yeshayahu said. How long you been alive, man? About 2,500 years. Therefore, stay awake, for you do not know what day or hour Yahuwah is coming. You don't know. But know that if the master of the house had known which part of the night the thief was coming, he would have stayed awake, have his near burning, his lamps burning, his iron ishlapi, his manure burning, and would not left. He says, if the thief was coming, he would stayed awake and would not have left his house, let his house be broken into. Therefore, you must be ready. For the Son of Yahuwah is coming at an hour you do not expect. Think about it. We had the 12th part. That's how we read the second Baruch. We had the 12th part. People don't even know that this is the end of days. They don't even know that this thing's getting ready to happen. You know what they're doing? Eating and drinking, marrying and building, doing all these things, not even knowing they should be living in houses that they don't even live in it. Getting gain like they don't even going to spend it. Why? Because you don't even know. You don't even know. Who then is that faithful and wise servant? Because everybody ain't wise. You know, how do you become wise? Much leisure. That's how you don't get wise. Whom his master has set over his household will give their food at the proper time. What proper time is this? Barak is that servant whom his master find doing when he comes. Who your master? Truly I say to you, he will set him over all his possessions. But if that wicked servant says to himself, my master has delayed, and begins to beat his fellow servants and eat and drink with the drunkards, and the master of that servant will come on a day when he does not expect him, and an hour he does not know, and cut him in pieces and put him with the hypocrites. He said, you want to go with them? You see the type of stuff people doing today? He said, you're going to be with them. He said, that's a mindset. And most of these things happen because of the seeds of your youth. Things that were sown in your mind when you were young. Before you even knew Yahushua, before you even got immersed. These things are still in your heart. It said, in that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth, right? All that's a part of it. All that's a part of it, right? So that's what we're thinking. This is the Nazarene Acts of the Shaly'shy. Nazarene Acts of the Shaly'shy. Nazarene Acts of the Shaly'shy. Yeah, this is Nazarene Acts of the Shaly'shy, chapter, I think it's XLIV. Yeah, XLIV. I think that's it. So I'm looking at this. What is the thing that we're talking about? Leisure and it's impossible for this and that. I'll find it in the back. We'll get back. Yeah. So this is the book, Nazarene Answer to Shaly'shy, XXIV, page 147. But maybe some of you will say Elohim has no care for human things. If we cannot even attain the knowledge of him, how will we attain his friendship? That Elohim does concern himself with the affairs of men. His government of the world bears witness, for the sun daily waits upon it, and the showers minister to it, and the fountains and the rivers and the winds and all the elements attend upon it. And the more these things become known to men, the more do they indicate Yahuwah's care over them. For unless by power of the Most High Yahuwah, the more powerful would never minister to the inferior. And by this Elohim is shown to have not only a care over men, but some great in affection, since he has deputed such noble elements for their service. But that man may also attain to the friendship of Elohim is proved to us by the example of those to whose prayers he has been so favorable that he has withheld the sky from rain when they wished. You know what the two witnesses are going to be doing? You know what all Yahoo and all Yahshua going to be doing? And guess what it says? Here we are. Yeah. And again opened it up when they prayed. It says, and many other things he has bestowed upon those who do his will, which could not be bestowed but upon his Haverim. But you will say, what harm is done to Elohim if these things also are worshipped by us? If any one of you should pay to another the honor that is due to his father, from whom he has received innumerable benefits, and should reverence a stranger and a foreigner as his father, should you not think that he was undutiful towards his father, the most deserving of to be disinherited? He's like, if you start worshiping the rain, the snow, the wind, the clouds, and everything that you see on earth, and you take the praise and the worship that was supposed to be given to Yahuwah, the Elohim who made it, he said, what did you just do to him? You just disheartened him by doing that. You worshiping a statue of a man, a human being. You're literally saying that you disheartened Yahuwah, and you literally just totally disregarded him as anybody who's done anything in this world. And you say, how can one do all of that and then say, I'm gonna get eternal life with an Elohim who don't even like that? He said, how are you gonna get that? Right. So this is the book of 1 Kings or 2 Kings. Right, this is the 2 Kings chapter, I think it's 16. 1 Kings chapter 16. Actually, 1 Kings chapter 17. 1 Kings chapter 17. 1 Kings chapter 17. 1 Kings chapter 17 and verse 1. Now Aydah the Tishbe of Gilead said to Ahab, as Yahuwah lives, the Elohim Yasharal lives, before whom I stand, there shall be neither dew nor rain these years except by my word. He said they'll be able to do this at will. He said, who is that? Who is that in Hazon? By the bar. And the word of Yahuwah came to him, depart from here and turn eastward and hide yourself in the brook of Cherith, which is in the east of Yarden, and you shall drink from the brook. And I, as I commanded, and the ravens to feed you there. So he went and did according to the word of Yahuwah. See, Yahuwah already got it. He already got your place right. And he went and lived in the brooks of Cherith in the east of Yarden. And the ravens brought him bread and meat in the morning. They said they brought him his food. And the bread and the meat in the evening. And he drank by the brook. And after a while, the brook dried up, because there was no rain in the land. He's like, man, ain't no rain, no Geshem. And then the word of Yahuwah came to him, arise and go to Zephaniah, which belongs to Sidon, and dwell there. Behold, I have commanded the widow there to feed you. So you see all that happen. He said, by my word, no rain. Which means all your food gonna die. He said, there gonna be famines, pestilence, earthquakes in diverse places. The earth shook too when they heard the loud sound too. He said, you're gonna be visited by Yahuwah with Malachim. But this is all a part of it, right? This is all a part of it. Right, so this is the book of, this is the last thing, and this is the book of Matthew chapter 27, Matthew 27 and 39. Matthew 27 27:37. And over his head they put his charge against him, which read, this is Yahusha, the Malach of the Yahudim. The two robbers who were crucified with him, one on the right and one on the left, and those who passed by derided him, wagging their heads, saying, because they were in the middle, because Yahusha was in the midst. That's the dry ground. You know the dry ground that they went across? When Yahweh said, where is the Elohim of Yahoo? He smoked the Yardan and he went on dry ground. When they put the 12 stones and put it in the midst of the river and the water became dry ground, just like it was in the beginning, when he said, let the waters be gathered into one place and let the dry land appear. He said separate the waters from the waters. When they came out and he saw a strong east wind and it was a dry land on the ground. The same way it was in the book of Hazum where they said there ain't going to be no sea, no yam. And he said, I saw New Jerusalem coming down from Shaly'shy like a bride adorned for her husband. Why do you think Yahushua was in the midst? It was very dry. Matter of fact, it's dry for you to even go across. In the midst of all that strife and fighting and mocking. In the midst of all that fighting and mocking and spitting and hitting and killing and false witness. It's all dry for you to walk on the other side if you want to. He said, oh, you want to be with the primitive thinking people. You know, the people who worship other gods and other idols, who disbelieve things like this. He said, you can stay over there with them. But he said, if you want to come on dry ground, you got to come this way. And he said, and those who passed by derided him, wagging their heads and saying, you will destroy the temple and rebuild it in 3 days, save yourself. If you are the son of Elohim, come down from the cross. So the chief priests and the scribes and the elders mocked him, saying, he saved others, he cannot save himself. He Malaki Yasharah, let him come down from the cross, and we will believe in him, and then come down from the cross. But he said, I'm like, oh, Yahoo. He said, if I be a man of Elohim, let fire come down and consume you. Matter of fact, no rain. Matter of fact, the whole river gonna be dry. But it said right here, and he trusted in Elohim, let Elohim deliver him now if he will have him. For he said, I am the son of Yahuwah. And the two robbers who crucified him also reviled him in the same way. Now from the 6th hour there was darkness over the land until the 9th hour. There was darkness over the whole land. It was darkness. But it says, and about the 9th hour, Yahushua cried out with a loud voice, Aliyah, Aliyah, my Elohim, why hast thou forsaken me? And some of the bystanders hearing it said, this man is calling for O Yahoo. He got to be calling for O Yahoo. You know, the man that was taken from Shaly'shy into the the whirlwind. You know that guy? You know, he must be calling for O Yahoo. You know, the man that was taken from the earth, that's supposed to come back and taste death, that hasn't tasted death yet. And you know what they said after that? They knew he wasn't. They know he ain't tasted death. You know what they said? And one of them at once ran and took a sponge and filled it with sour wine and put a reed and gave him to drink. But the other said, wait, let's see whether all Yahoo gonna come back with a place where he ain't taste death from. Because he ain't taste death yet. Let's see if he come back. And we will see all Yahoo will come and save us. See he gonna come back. Because you know he can call down fire. Matter of fact, he can make it not rain. He got a whole bunch of abilities. Matter of fact, he able to open up people's eyes and pray and make blindness come upon them and lead them to another place and open people's eyes up so they can see the actual chariots flying like he did the servant. Let's see if he's going to come. And Yahushua cried out again with a loud voice and yielded up the Ruach. He said, man, Yahushua, like, I'm getting out of here. And behold, the curtain of the temple was torn in two, and the earth shook. It was an earthquake, and the rock split, because it was a loud voice, just like it was in the book of Revelation when he shook all Jerusalem. And matter of fact, all Yahoo and all Yasha tasted death, and they rose again, and they went back to Shamayim in the cloud. I wonder who was in the cloud with them, where they went. I wonder who was in the flying craft, where they were going at, when they're flying in the flying vehicle with. I wonder who was in it with him when he went up in the cloud. I wonder. Right, this is Yuchanan chapter 18 and verse 1. Yuchanan chapter 18, 25. Actually, Yuchanan chapter 18. Yuchanan chapter 18 and actually, Yuchanan chapter 19 and verse 28. After this, Yahusha, knowing that all was finished, said to fulfill the scripture, I thirst, because it was the dry ground. He was in between two thieves. Let the waters be gathered in one place and let the dry land appear. It was dry. It was a dry. Matter of fact, he said when they put the 12 stones in the middle of Yarden, the people ran across in haste. They were gone. So you got to do this thing real fast. And after Yahusha, knowing all was finished, said to fulfill the scripture, I thirst. A jar of sour wine stood there. And they put a sponge and full of hyssop and branch and held it to his mouth. And when Yahusha had received the sour wine, he said, it is finished. And he bowed his head and gave it the Ruach. He said he gave it the Ruach. That's what happens. Right? This is a book of, right, so here we go. This is Aleph Yuchanan 1, 2, 24 to 28. That what you heard from the beginning abiding you. He said, let what you heard from the beginning abide in you. And if what you heard from the beginning abides in you, then you too will abide in the Son, the life of the house, and the Father, the strength of the house. And this is the promise he has made to us, eternal life. He said, what's the promise he made to eternal life? Right? What's the promise? Or this is 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, 1 Thessalonians chapter 3. Yeah. 1 Thessalonians. Thessalonica, like they said. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 and verse 16. Actually, verse 15. For this we declare to you by the word from Yahuwah, that we who are alive and who are left until the coming of the Master will not precede those who have fallen asleep. For Yahuwah himself will descend from Shamayim with a cry of command. What do you think he did on totality? What do you think? Why do you think it's impossible? Why do you think he did in the book of Hazon? Why do you think you see even when Yusuf revealed himself to his brother, he cried out and all of Mizraim heard him? What do you think gonna happen? All Mizraim and all the people of the earth gonna hear him when he cried. When he revealed himself to Yasharal again, when he come back and the cloud rolled back like a scroll. And the voice of the Ark Malachim, and with the sound of the Turah, the shofar of Elohim, and the dead of Mashiach will rise first. Who shall go up and fight against the Canaanite? Who shall go up and fight against all those in the second, all those who rebelled against Yahuwah who shall go up? Who shall go up first? And Yasharal prayed to Yahuwah, and you know what they said? He said Yahudah gonna go up first. I have given it into their hand. Then we who are alive, who are left, will be caught up together with them in the clouds. We're gonna be flying out of here like Al Yahoo, like Al Yasha. Now we're gonna be flying out like Al Yahoo, like Hanu, like Yahusha. We're gonna be riding. He said we're gonna be flying out like Phineas. We're gonna be caught in the cloud. After they tasted death, the cloud called them back up with a loud cry, and they just ascended into Shamayim, and everybody saw him, even the Nabiim, the false Mashiach. He said, we're going to ride, we're going to be flying like that to meet Yahuwah in the air. Oh, I wonder what you'd be going inside of. And guess what? And so will we always be with Yahuwah. He said, we're going to always be with him. Therefore, encourage one another with these words. He said, that's what's going to happen. He said, because you know how they say, you know how Yahushua said, Yahushua wasn't from here, the earth. He said, what would it be imagined if I went back where I was before? So, if Yahushua not from the earth, and then you were immersing Yahushua and not put him on, you put him on, and you of a heavenly Shamayim, you will eat Malaki food, and you're on earth, that means you ain't from here either. You are from above. Yeah, you're not from here either. You are from above. He said extra celestial beings. You're not from here. He said, you meet with him in the air. Therefore, encourage one another these words. He said, why? Because that's what we're looking for. Verse 25 says, in all of Yukonon 2:25, and this is the promise he has made to us, eternal life. I write these things about those who are trying to deceive you. You know, they want you to disbelieve all this. They say, nah, that stuff ain't real. Nah, forget that. No, people ain't still alive. People ain't here. Nobody's coming back here. Nah, don't believe that. That's impossible. That's impossible. I'm sure they said that when they made a Learjet. When they start flying in the sky and they start flying in these planes, I'm sure they said that too. That's impossible. Or something that could be stealth and just fly in the air and you can't hear it. It doesn't even have an engine sound. I'm sure they said that was impossible too. Yeah, I'm sure it was. I write these things about those who are trying to deceive you. Shimon, who talking about he could fly from mountain to mountain. I could turn stones to bread. I could turn stones to bread. Magicians and sorcerers, necromancers, spirit channelers can go from one world to another world, jump portals, go through gateways and doorways all throughout the earth, jump through gateways and doorways, jump out of this atmosphere and go to the Rakia. Yeah, these beings are trying to deceive you. Samael and all these other beings that travel out here in this world. These reptiles, he say, these reptilians, reptile mindsets, snake mindsets, venomous vipers, all these people possessed with these beings. Avatars using your body as a control mechanism for them. Take over your consciousness in your body. Yeah, those beings. Yeah, they're still here. The demons of Shadim that give you all the intellect and knowledge to build their devices to control your thoughts and your mind. Yeah, they still here too. Man, that person's so intelligent. Not even. It's a lot of things about this world people don't know. But the anointing that you receive in him abides in you, and you have no need that anyone should teach you. He said, you don't need anybody to teach you nothing. But the anointing, as the anointing teaches you about everything, and it's true, and there's no lie. Just as it has taught you, abide in him. And now, little children, abide in him, so that when he appears, you may have confidence and not shrink from him and shame at his coming. Why? Because you were doing all the things that Balaam and Satan were doing, and you were worshiping him in his image and likeness. And you were bound and worshiping the image of the beast and the demons and the Shadim and the beings from the Rakia and the firmament. You were worshiping the beings and the sun, the Shemesh keeping in the yard, the stars and the constellations and all the big beings out there that exist in the other worlds. You gave all your worship to the sun, moon, and stars, the waters, the trees, the flowers. You worshiping animals, creeping things, worshiping fish, worshiping yourself, your image and likeness, worshiping your own self, putting loving things before Yahuwah, loving your own, loving even the things that extend out from you. Guess what happened? He said, you're going to shrink in shame when he comes. You're going to see all the success that he had when he came and he comes back. He's coming back again. You see how Newt taught the whole earth and everybody came and learned the ways of Yahuwah? Well, guess what? Yahushua going to come and do that again. And he's going to rule the whole earth. He's going to teach too. He's how you know he's going to teach. He coming back to do the same thing that Enoch did. He was ruling the whole world. He said, man, you saw how many kings and rulers came and come here? He said, what Yahushua going to do? How did this is the book of Revelation, Hazum. This is the book of Revelation. Book of Hazum 20:1. Revelation 21. And then I saw the Malachim coming down from Shamayim. Everybody coming from the Rakir. Everybody coming from the Shamayim. Ain't nobody. Where are they people beings coming from? They're coming from the bottom of the center of the earth. He said, them are other beings that's already here to deceive you. Holding in his hand the key to the bottomless pit and the great chain. And a great chain. He said, man, he had a big chain. And he sees the dragon. We just talked about dragon. You know, the one in the garden. That's in between the inclinations and the thoughts of Adam and Kuul. They cause him to transgress the Torah. Yeah, him. The Nakash. And if you like the Nakash, that's what's going to happen to you. The ancient serpent, who is Satan, and the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years, and threw him in the pit, and shut it, and sealed it over him. I mean, they got beings, they got abilities. They got that chain and that little thing he had in his hand, a key. And the chain ain't the chain and key. You know the key you got in your hand, you be opening your door. That ain't what it look like. And then you know the chain that you wear right here. That's not what it look like. It's a little bit more advanced than that. So please be thinking it's your car keys. You know how people say it's your car keys. I mean, the chain you got right there. And he sees them, the dragon and the ancient serpent and the devil, and threw him in the pit. Threw him in there 1,000 years. That's something you can't even imagine. And threw him into a pit and shut it and sealed it over him. So that he might not deceive the nations any longer. Until the 1,000 years were ended. You know what happens after that? And after that, he must be released for a little while. What's the point of teaching people you can't? You know, you would like, yeah, I taught you 1,000 years, so let me see what he's going to do. Let's see what happened when he comes. And then I saw thrones, and seated on them were those whom the authority to judge was committed. You know the Qahalath ain't going to judge the world? And I saw the souls of those who had been beheaded for the testimony of Yahushua and for the word of Yahuwah, and those who had not worshipped the beast and his image. They ain't worship no idols. I ain't bound no idol, I ain't bound no man, I ain't bound no statue, I ain't bound no pastor, I ain't bound no teacher, I ain't bound nobody. Why? I ain't bound none of y'all. I don't care how many you got glitter clothes on. Right? You got like they say a glitter clothes, glittering, flying around in the sky. He said, I don't care how many powers you got. Right? So I'm gonna rejoice at the name written in the Lamb Book of Life. That's the whole point. I don't care how many powers you got. That still don't mean nothing. It can help people out temporarily, but they still gotta go to judgment even after they get the demons cast out of it. You still gotta go to judgment. That's what people don't think about. You still gotta go to judgment, even as you do all that stuff, these feats and these things that you do. You still gotta go to judgment. You might not even get in. You be like, man, I did all that, and I still might not even get in Malkuth. That's some junk right there. It's like, man, let me think about what I'm doing right now. It says, who had not worshipped the beast in his image, and he had not received its mark in their foreheads and in their hands. How you say in their forehead, in their frontal lobe, in their mind, and in their right hand, in their hands. You know what hands you got? Your yod and your kaf, the 11 and 12. Your open right hand and your kaf. And then your rosh, because your rosh is your mind. That's the what? The 20th letter of the alphabet. And your hands, your yod and your kaf. And they came to life and reigned with Mashiach for 1,000 years. He said he came back to life. You know what happened to the men that got killed? You came back to life. So what makes you think that you can't come back to life? You should raise the dead, raise Lazarus, raise all these people, raise the girl woman. They said they were dead. They laughed him to scorn. They laughed him to scorn, not even knowing they were laughing at him. Not even knowing why they were laughing. And he raised him from the dead. What makes you think he can't get you up? He raised people from the dead for many years. And guess what? People say, no, that's not happening. But you can believe that Frankenstein can get it from the dead for some lightning. You can believe a conjurer and a spirit channeler can raise some skeletons up on television, but you can't believe that Yahusha can raise you from the dead just by speaking. Right? I'm sorry. He said, you can believe that though. But for some reason you can't. Nah, he can't raise the dead just by Amar utterance, Amar, just by his utterance, his voice. Just by his debar, you don't believe. He said, Amurah. It says, they came to life and reigned with Mashiach 1,000 years, and the rest of the dead did not come to life until the 1,000 years were ended. I mean, you come back in second resurrection, you know what's gonna happen? They're gonna be so advanced in consciousness and mind, they're gonna be ready to judge you. They're gonna be like, man, they're gonna have so much consciousness on the inside. I mean, see, you know when you sit in Shamayim places, that's 1,000 years of information uploaded into your consciousness, your mind, expanding all your thought process and your inner man. You're gonna be vibrating on a whole nother frequency. You'll be like, he said, that's the level that one will be at. He said, you'll be able to see through all of this. But guess what happens? It says, and this is the first resurrection. This is the first resurrection. Barak is Qahalath. Barak and Qahalath is the one who shares in the first resurrection. Over such, the second death has no power. He said, you ain't got no power. But they will be priests, Kahanim of Elohim. They're going to be priests. Why? Because we read in the testament of Isaac, Yitzhak, he told you what a priest. He said, the life of a priest is very hard. Broad is the way to destruction, and narrow is the way to life. And hard is the way to life. And few that be that find it. And Mashiach. He said, he'll be priest to Elohim, Yahuwah, and Mashiach. And they will reign with him 1,000 years. He said, it's going to be 1,000 years. And he said, when 1,000 years are ended, Satan will be released from his prison, his other dimensional doorway, gateway, the other world that they can open up with devices and things, crystals. Satan will be released from his prison and will come out to deceive the nations that are at the four corners of the earth. Right? He said, so how you know you're not already in there? That you're already living it. He said, why he uploading all this stuff in your head? Why all this stuff coming? Because you know why? Because I'm trying to upload it into your consciousness. How you say practice makes perfect, right? Practice makes perfect. Right, understanding that it varies to the 12 lunar light, the 12 rays of light, and the 12 crowns, 12 stones that were on the crown, and the 12 rays of light that were coming from the crown, and knowing that these things are all part of your human nature, and knowing that these things are a part of you, and you're the light of the world, the ore of the world, a city that cannot be hid, knowing that you're the lamp and manure of Yahuwah. Yeah, knowing that. Just as the bow in the cloud is a covenant with you. When it rains in the sky and it rains and you see the Geshem with the sun and you see the bow in the cloud, such are you. And we ain't talking about the other thing. We talking about something that goes beyond people's natural sight. And he bended at 180 degrees in the sky, and you can't see his hands bending it, but yet it's bent in the sky. He said that's how powerful he is. He bend the bow and you can't even see his hand. Right, I don't know how we got over there, but we there. But as his anointing teaches you about everything, it is true, is no lie, just as it has taught you about him. And now little children abide in him, so that when he appears, you may have confidence and not shrink from him in shame at his coming. So we look at all that. We look at Yahushua Mashiach. We look at his return to the Aydahs. But we also see the ascension in the thought process of the ascended mind of one's own mind. We look at the thought process of the understanding. It said the changing of the mind is the changing of the heart, and the changing of the liver and the kidneys, the changing of who you are on the inner man and the inner being. That your inward man and your inward thoughts may resonate the actual thought process and the vibrational thought process of who he is. And even as the bar speaks and it goes and resonates through your ear and your eardrums, and it beats just like a drum on your ear, and it gives you life and understanding, and it beats within your heart and your mind and resonates throughout your nasal cavities all the way down to your throat, all the way down to your stomach, and goes through your inner man and your inner being to change your thought process in your mind. Now, you no longer walk in the ways in the lower self, but in the ancient self. Just like the ancient Nakash, you got to be ancient yourself in order to be able to combat an ancient being. You have to walk in the ancient way. And that ancient way has nothing to do with the things that you see naturally. The ancient way has everything to do with what you do inwardly. So we look at ourselves, we look at our inward being, we look at our inward thoughts. But you know what man says? Human beings, people of the flesh, they said we will not walk in the ancient way. But the ancient way is what actually allows you to be able to combat the very things that you see. Because as the days of Nuach were, so shall also be the coming of the Son of Yahuwah. They were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, carnal-minded people, building and constructing, but not even knowing. When Yahushua Mashiach comes back, they're going to catch them unawares. So he said, Baraka is he who finds soul watching. So always be on watch, because the books and the storyline is only believed by those who actually know it and read it. People who don't know it and don't read it, they don't believe it's true. And you are, how you say, does he not judge in the midst of the Elohims? Does he not judge in the midst of the gods? He does in the midst. He said, where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there in my name. Any 2 touch and agree, it shall be done. But anything you pray and ask in my name, it shall be given to you at any time. Even at the point when it's time for things to take place on the earth. So make sure we keep our life and our thoughts and our mind in a certain level that we may, when we petition Yahuwah, it may immediately happen and not be waiting 3 days like Saul. When is Yahuwah going to respond to me? When is Yahuwah going to respond to me? That's when you know he hid his face from you, because it hasn't happened immediately. Right? You want to get to the point where you pray and it happens immediately. These are the things that you want in your life. So we look at ourselves, we look at our inward man, we look at our inward being, we look at our inward thoughts. And knowing that when these things happen, it's all for a reason. It's so that one can work towards the very thing that they need to get in their life. Right? So at the same time, we look at ourselves, we look at our inner being, we look at our inner thoughts. And we look on the things that are above and not on things in the earth. For the meek shall inherit the earth. The meek shall inherit the earth.